Yeah. Take it at midfield. Just go right now. Go to camera 3. 3. Go to the gate. Perfect. Just like that.
I'll just go ahead.
Yeah. Graphics 2 is going to be up for the first. Okay. Go right now. Go to camera 3. Go. Yep. Can you go to the gate? Perfect. Just like that. No music. I'm going to have 2 cues. Wait for it.
On radio in the Canal Zone.
All right, guys, mic check.
Okay,
Ricky, mic.
Yep, I am ready.
Willie, mic check.
Yep, let's go.
10, 9, 8,
7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1,
and we're live.
Okay, and go for it, guys.
It takes me back to my Panama days.
Yes. Back to our Panama days indeed. That's what we do every Friday night, guys. 8 p.m. Eastern time. Willie Benninghoff here on the Eastern side. And then 5 p.m. Pacific time with Ricky Royo. And then, of course, down in the Canal Zone is now 7 p.m. So, anyhow, happy out the Balboa Yacht Club. Happy Friday, Ricky. What's going on, man?
Happy Friday to everybody. Yes, sir. The weather, like always, has been spectacular out here on the West Coast. Nice and bright. So let's get this show started. Welcome to our Friday night at the happy hour at the Balboa Yacht Club. A weekly podcast that's on its second year that is all about the Panama Canal. Its infrastructure, its towns, people, a.k.a. Zonians, or a.k.a. Mango Heads, or we have another a.k.a. AXA for all the Atlantic Siders.
Yes.
Guys, let's prepare our drinks. Let's toast to this beautiful eighth wonder of the world.
Amen to that, absolutely.
And let's get this show started, Willie. I know we got a great show tonight.
Yeah, it's going to be really cool. It's going to be a almost an offshoot of what we did last week, or it kind of helped to throw this thing out there. But of course, and AK Aska, yeah, we are going to stay on the Atlantic side as we did last week. Vern Couturier, good to see you, buddy. And speaking of Vern was on last week, talked about the Atlantic side, talked a little bit about Gatun and the disappearing town of Gatun, or the ever-changing town. Also, we talked about Portobello and Fort San Lorenzo, and some interesting stories about those two places and the roles they've played throughout, the eras and whatnot. So what we're going to do tonight is we're going to try something out. We're not sure what to make of it yet, or how we're going to spin this eventually if it does pan out. But it's kind of, think of it like a day in the life of a Canal Zone police officer. Right. And these guys, mostly in cars, at least I remember mostly in cars, but on occasion you'd see one on foot patrol as well. But these guys, were the eyes and the ears of the Canal Zone. Right. And they were around 24/7, and they knew everything that went on. They knew what everything was, where it was, how it worked, what it was for, etc. And so my dad's actually going to join us and talk about some of Gatun. When he called me last Saturday, and just to chit chat about the show, and he mentioned, he goes, that Gatun area was indeed small like that, but it was busy. It was a busy area. All of that area was busy, and really kind of like the Pacific side was. In fact, there's a lot more similarities than you realize when we start comparing the two and looking at them here in just a bit. But he mentioned a lot of different areas and things that he would do, for example, on a daily basis when he was, working his day-to-day and patrolling, and especially early on in his career when he was on the Atlantic side. So we're going to learn about a couple of the stops that you make on a typical, patrol for a Canal Zone police officer, and maybe throw a little history about those areas, what they were for, maybe some of their history, etc. And shed more light on it, because one of the things that we really want to do here is put out a lot of that Atlantic side narrative that we're not familiar with, right? Because
correct, Willie, and I'm really happy we're doing that, because that it's all about learning. This show's all about learning, and the truth is, a lot of us on this show and viewers that watch this show, we do know a lot about the Pacific side and that stuff that happened there, but we rarely know, at least speaking for myself, don't know that much about the Atlantic side, but so every time we talk about it, I get excited. I just love it. And tonight we're going to be showing maps and all that stuff. So it's going to be a good show, guys. Good show. Continuation of last week, so to speak, like Willie said. Gatun, talk about that town. And truly, even on the Pacific side, Gatun was like, when you thought of the Atlantic side, Gatun was like the premier town. Like Balboa would be on the Pacific.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And it really turns out it wasn't the biggest town, but it had a lot of importance, and a lot of it had to do with its proximity to the locks, as it was literally next door to the locks, and there's a rail stop right there on right next to the locks as well. And so
two big sets of locks, the old and the new. And it's also a town that transformed itself throughout the different eras of the Panama Canal, but survived. Like other towns are 80 feet underwater or just straight up disappeared. Gatun got cut up, reshaped, reformed, and she's still there providing land to two very important locks.
Yeah, and it's interesting because that area in between the two sets of locks is abandoned now, but it's still there. And depending on how you want to describe it, some call it eerie, some call it cool, interesting, but it's remained intact and it's remained taken care of, which, in a lot of places that reverted back, if they weren't used or purchased outright, they've just, rotted out to nothing.
Yeah, and the grass overgrew. And, we've seen it like in Amador. You've seen some areas at Amador are like that. And not Gatun. Like I said, it's like an architectural museum of preservation.
Yeah, and speaking of architecture, you're going to throw a little...
Yes, we're going to start a new little something.
We don't know what that one's going to be called yet either, but tell us what that's all about, Ricky, real quick.
We're going to start sprinkling in pictures of some of my favorite buildings that I've grew up with, loving, and I, from a young age, I've been photographing them. And I actually have a picture tonight to show you guys of one of those pictures I took at a young age. But yeah, we're going to start introducing some of my favorite architecture, and we'll talk about the building a little bit.
Yeah, for those of you guys that don't know, Ricky, his profession is architecture, right? He's an architect. That's his profession. He's trained. He's been schooled in architecture. So it is a passion of his. His favorite architect of all times is Art Vandelay. So if that tells you anything.
Well, actually, it's Mr. Bouzier. I tell you what, I started this in 8th grade. I started drafting in 8th grade, Willie, in Mr. Bouzier's class. Until today, I still do that. I've never not done that ever in my life since 8th grade. 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, through college, my whole entire career. So, yeah.
And what's interesting about it when you talk about it and how it relates to what we're doing here is, and it's no surprise to anybody if you grew up and lived in the Canal Zone, that the Canal Zone had some unique architecture to it. There was some.
Correct.
You take the admin building. I mean, you talk about a grandiose building with massive columns and it's perched on a hill. It's got a gigantic stairs going up to it. So everything about it was meant to be grandiose and powerful, right?
Yeah.
And you have El Prado, the designs there. So there's a lot of really cool things in the Canal Zone. And again, Ricky being an architect and having this passion for it, it's great. Edith Barkowitz has a book.
Yes.
Find it on Amazon.
Incredible book.
It's called Architecture of the Canal Zone in Panama. And it's a big book, let me tell you, man. And it's just an incredible book. It's got some beautiful photographs. It's a giant book. I mean, it's definitely a coffee table book. And
I would say it's about 4 inches thick. And it's like an 11 by 17 sheet.
Yeah, exactly. It's a big book, man. But
that's a big book. And we have permission to use the images and all that.
Yes.
So I'll there's some pictures in there I'll be selecting. But I think everybody will enjoy that. And of course, I've got an eye for detail, so I'll be pointing out some of the details that have caught my eye. But anyway, so tonight we'll be showing you a couple of that.
Yeah. But let's say hello to a couple other folks here real quick, and then we'll move right along. So in Cincy, took our friend Chris, who was out in your neck of the woods last week out on the West Coast.
Yes, I had lunch with him.
Good to see you, Chris.
Early dinner. We had early dinner, yes.
Right, yeah. Thanks, guys, for dating your Friday.
Hey, Miss Ranstu.
Yes, man, it's a lot of fun, man. And by the way, Eric, I asked my dad, and he does not recall working with anyone with the last name Anstus, but We'll ask him again tonight when you get him on. He'll put him on the spot, right? But anyhow, yeah, good to see you again, buddy, and thanks again for the beers. Really appreciate you, brother. They rode motorcycles at one time. Okay. All right. I'm not sure what that is. I missed something there, but I'm not sure what we were maybe talking about earlier that we brought up motorcycles. But good evening. Good to see you. Are you going to the museum luncheon? I'm going to try and make it out there. I totally forgot to sign up, so I'm going to reach out to them. And if even if it's not the luncheon, at least I'd like to go out and visit anyway, because I've never been there. So I think it'd be great to check it out anyhow, one way or the other. So I'm definitely going to try and do it. Happy Friday to you. Last week when you talked about Fort Sherman, I have a cannonball from Drake's wreck that was found on the wreck given to me. Wow, that is really cool.
Cannonball, right on.
Sir Francis Drake, one of the pirates or privateers, depending on whose side you're on. He was the other famous pirate that was involved in action in Panama. Everybody, of course, thinks of Blackbeard as, for obvious reasons. I mean, this guy, he forced the city to move, right? I mean, this is where his standing is. But Sir Francis Drake had a lot of action on the Atlantic side in Portobello in that area. And right off the entrance to the mouth of the bay there where Portobello is, there's an island out there called Drake Island. And legend is that he is buried out there, and his coffin was lined with lead, I guess to maybe protect it or whatever, and dumped out there somewhere. But as a lot of that area there in Panama, it's restricted as to where you can dive and what you can do there. There are places you can, but you can't just free will dive anywhere around it because there's a lot of artifacts in that area still. So, but that's kind of a cool thing to get a Sir Francis Drake cannonball, man. That's that's awesome, man. I have that book. Yes, it's a fantastic book. It's incredible. I don't have it here handy right next to me right now. I was trying to move some stuff around the other day, but like Ricky said, it's a massive, massive book. But let me tell you what, you sit one evening, put on some cool tunes, maybe some Shorty and Slim, and just start leafing through the pages. You talk about a way to take you back there in such an educational way that, you normally probably wouldn't look at an architecture book and be like, I'm not gonna look at that, but this one's the zone, man, and it really does. Edith Barkowitz did a absolutely top-notch job on it. It is worth every penny for that book because I can't rave enough about it. It's a really, really cool book. The CZ Police rode motorcycle. Yes, they did. There was a lot of CZ Police motorcycles out there at the time. I remember that. In fact,
50s and 60s, right? Well, that's your dad, because I don't remember my dad being on a motorcycle.
No, it wasn't. But like Sheila, that chimes in on occasion, Sheila Chisholm. Her dad was and I believe he was a motorcycle cop. I believe she's chimed in about him. She chimes in quite a bit about the Canal Zone Police. She does a really great job of promoting the Canal Zone Police. If you're not a member of it, you can check them out and go through the Canal Zone Police Facebook page because they got a lot of really cool pictures and stuff of that awesome organization. So looking forward to some of that, hearing some of those stories tonight there. But anyhow, let's go ahead and move right along, get some quick announcements on our reunion and everything, and then we're going to talk about some cool things going on here. And Ricky, like I said, is going to sprinkle us with some interesting architecture stuff.
And some good bochincha, like always.
Yeah, some cool bochincha as well, because, of course, there's always something going on in Panama. Never a dull moment there.
In Panama.
But let's get our Tijuana, the Tijuana Brass Band going here.
SCN Television presents K Pasa. And now here's this evening's host, Army Sergeant Bob Foster.
Good evening and welcome to K Pasa. We've got two guests tonight. First Sergeant First Class Jim Webb. Sergeant Webb's with the 227th Military Police Detachment. He's the kennel master.
All right, so there we go. That's our Herb Albert and his crew there. But so, Ricky, what's going on? Actually, before you proceed with that, we
got some announcements, before we get started here.
Yeah, before we get started with that, let's get our announcements going here. Of course, first and foremost, Pan Canal Society, their reunion is coming up here. I've already got the banner up there, as you can see it down on the bottom there. Any information you need on the reunion or on any upcoming events for the society, pancanalsociety.org is the website. You can get all the information. All the info on the upcoming reunion is there now. So you need to check it out. Couple important things to keep in mind when it comes to the reunion. The dates this year are the 8th through the 12th of July. Okay, they're not normally it's the 4th of July weekend this year. It's a week later. Okay, so don't forget that. Keep that in mind. Hopefully that'll impact tickets in a positive way because it's not the holiday weekend you're traveling on. It's a week
and
after.
The expensive weekend. And we can always mention
sure,
that too.
for sure.
That is the expensive weekend.
Of course,
And that's kind of why Alex picked the date they did in January, because that's the week before carnivals and the week, a couple weeks after New Year's, which are the expensive flights and
That's
expensive
exactly right.
hotels.
Exactly right. The holiday season is over, and then right before the carnival season kicks in, there's a small little window or lull there in travel, and that's when they pick the Canals Arena. So if you're always wondering why that is, and truth be told, a lot of people, that as much as they'd like to go and go, may not go if it was during one of those other busy travel seasons, because you're talking a big difference in cost.
Huge
there, so,
difference, especially Christmas.
But same thing going on this side here. It is at the Rosen Shingle Creek Resort again in Orlando. That's a pretty good sized place, but everything seems to be well set up. You'll do some walking, but it's not too bad, man. You're gonna eat some great food there, so it doesn't hurt to walk some of that off.
Bring your
anyway.
Fitbit. Makes you feel good.
Yeah, you can take exactly. You're right, man. Because at the end of the night, you're like, man, right on.
10,000 steps.
Yeah,
oh my
10,000.
God!
I would believe if you're at the reunion, other than some people that like to just, sit in one area and claim it, stake their claim there. Most people kind of walk around and check different things out.
If you go from pool to to where all the rooms are to your rooms, but in between those three areas, you're doing your 10,000 steps for sure.
Just listen, Friday night, you probably go back and forth a lot between. Where the class reunions are, they're on one end of the hotel, and everything's down in the bottom floors, and then where all your events are and are on the opposite end. And somewhere in between there's that little restaurant bar row there that has a lot of little eateries and drinking places, and that tends to be a place where a lot of Zonians congregate there. And then, like you said, outside of the pool area as well. So, man, if you don't get 10,000 steps, you're
missing out on the reunion.
You are,
yeah.
Man. Yeah, you're just hanging out one place for too
I'm
long.
looking forward for it this year. I'm going to be there because it's my class 45th.
Yeah, class reunion, his 45th reunion, our 40th reunion for class of 86. So we're both going to be there Friday night. We may have to figure something out for Friday night show because, again, we both have our class reunions going on that night. So it's going to be... We got some time to figure some stuff out, but we're not sure exactly what's going to go down on that one.
Right, maybe. Oh, that's right. We got to do let's hear. Maybe you guys can give us some ideas. But we're thinking of pictures and music going on for an hour or so. I don't know. We'll figure something out. But I always like to announce the Saturday night event, which is the big event in my opinion. I mean, I really hope this turns out to be the reunion ball of the year.
Yeah.
Right. And don't forget the menu, guys. Summit Garden Salad, Sosa Hill Ropa Vieja. Yeah. And for the people that don't eat meat, the Rainforest Ropa Vieja. And of course, don't ever forget our Gold Coast salmon. Mm-hmm. Gold Coast for the Atlantic side. So, of course,
what Ricky's talking about here, guys, is that Grand Tivoli Soiree. Okay.
Soiree.
It's not replacing, they're enhancing the Saturday night party.
They're kind of adding back the dinner component, which is truly what made it that special evening, instead of just the dance party.
Yeah.
Now,
and then one other piece to it also, which is, something they're really wanting to push is going back to, traditionally that Saturday night was the night that you got dressed up, right?
Correct.
And Ricky and I have been kind of throwing the idea around for the last couple of weeks talking about this, just kind of ad-libbing about it. But especially with the graduating classes, make it a prom night. Right? Prom was that one, in 1981, in 1986, I know in 86, I was wearing probably a Guns N' Roses t-shirt. I was wearing something like that, maybe an OP t-shirt. So Ron John or something, right? And jeans, right? Levi's 501s, wearing Hush Puppies, because that was the thing then.
Yeah, those were from the 70s. Those were popular Zonian
But there was one night of the
shoes.
year, maybe two nights with the Christmas formal, but certainly prom. Dude, you got dressed up. You rented the tux.
Wait. Yearbook picture, too.
Oh, yes. Well, not mine. That was. You're
my
right.
year. We all had the same.
Yeah.
We all put on the same jacket at the same time.
I also had the class clown was me in my senior year. So for that one, I didn't dress up for that, of course. But
Gotcha.
But no, again, we dressed as typical Zonians. But then one night a year, we got all decked out, and it was nice to go out for dinner at a restaurant and then go out to the party, the dance, or whatever. And that's really the way I would look at this as this Tivoli soiree, and maybe down the road they could say, hey, let's do prom, Canal Zone prom, not BHS prom or CHS prom, but just Canal Zone prom.
Right. You know, because they got the polleras out there dancing for you to watch.
Man.
They got the murga coming in to get
Very
you all
formal,
jacked
fun
up
night,
before.
man. Yeah,
They
I
got
like
a wine
job
bottle
these
on
guys
each
did.
table. It's gonna be good. It's gonna be good.
Yeah, I like what these guys have done with that. I think it's great to try and, you know, bring back some, you know, the Canal Zone's all about traditions and nostalgia.
Well, the
know?
Tivoli Hotel apparently was like that. Was like the date night spot. You know,
that was the spot
where people would get dressed up and go there for
Well,
events and whatnot.
we've heard before people talking about the Tivoli that, you know, when it got happening where it was a lot of dancing, that whole building was shaking, right? I mean, it was.
I think the Hewsums told us that.
Yes.
Yeah, well, listen, we got another announcement, guys, for the Panama Canal Museum. They're looking for yearbooks. So anybody you guys have yearbooks, you know, from way before our time, but this is what they're looking for, guys. The yearbook Caribbean, anything 1919, 1920 in that area. And again, I don't know where a Caribbean would be from, which high school that would be. You know, could be the one that was in La Boca. Remember there was a high school there?
I'll tell you right now where it is.
Yeah. El Pacifico. Another one that I'm not familiar with, but they're looking for yearbooks from that from 52 and 53. And, of course, the Zonian, which is the Balboa High School one. If you have anybody you know from 1916,
the Caribbean was the Cristobal High School. That's Cristobal High Schools. Yeah, so here's the yearbooks and periodicals you had. Believe it or not, Balboa Elementary School. I don't recall having one when I went to Balboa Elementary, but they had a yearbook there, and it was just called yearbook, apparently. But, of course, BHS is the Zonian.
Correct.
Canal Zone College back in the day had the Conquistador. Cristobal High School had the Caribbean. Corundu Junior High had the Cougar Pride yearbook.
Yes, that's correct.
Corundu Middle School, I guess back in the day, had the yearbook. And then La Boca School had the La Bocan, was their yearbook. La Boca Normal Training School had the Thinker. Paraiso High School, which is, pre-1979, is that correct?
That is correct, yeah.
Okay, they had El Pacifico.
Okay, all right, got you. Now we know.
And then Silver City / Rainbow City High School had Apex / Arcoiris. Arcoiris is Spanish for rainbow. So, you know, that's pretty cool. And so, again, they're talking about it, and they put it in the announcements here, like Ricky just said. If you're interested in donating your yearbooks, please contact John Nemmers. And I'm going to put this into the chat real quick.
We have one up there on banners.
Yeah, no, I'll put his, because he's got his email on there. John Nemmers at ufl.edu, which is universityoflorida.edu. Reach out to him and let him know they're looking for Caribbean 1919, El Pacifico from 52 to 53, Zonian from 16 to 1917 and 1923. So if you know where they're at or anything else, you know, the museum is really, you know, they got some great collection and always looking for more great Canal Zone, stuff to put out there. So
they do. Speaking of Canal Zone, another announcement I got here, Willie. Our very good friend Henry Towie, he's got that W, that silent W in there. Towie. Oh, I guess the W is not silent.
Well, like the number two, spelled T-W-O.
So the H is silent. Is silent. April 8th at 11:45 a.m. At the Seminole Cafe at FSU and Ciudad de Saber, which is, we know it as Clayton, Fort Clayton. Speaking of transformative, which I mentioned earlier about Gatun, he's doing a seminar or a charla about the study of the 5 transformative moments in Panama's past that have altered global trajectory. In other words, 5 different times Panama has been part of a major, because of it, the world's been different. So April 8th, 11:45 a.m., Fort Clayton, Seminole Cafe at near the FSU campus, which my nephew is going there now. That's Raina's son. Another announcement, Willie, the Canal Zone documentary. And speaking of Rainbow City, last week he did a great number of you guys can follow him. He's on Instagram, he's on Facebook, and Thane Wheeler's his name. He does. He's going to do a He's working on putting together a documentary. So right now he's in the face of receiving information.
Yeah,
so
we're due to get him back on. We've had him on before.
Yeah, we need to get him back on. But he's got a new one out right now, which is something Willie and I have been talking a lot about is he's talking about the different towns and wants you to, post pictures if you have them and a little something of whatever town you're from.
Yeah.
And he's getting a lot of participation, Willie. So, we should definitely bring him back on. When we did have him on over a year ago now, this was just an idea. So this is a year later of him collecting information and for his documentary. So it'd be good to bring him on if he's ready to talk about his documentary.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's what I got for the announcements, Willie, unless you got something.
No. I mean, that's pretty much it for
What's
now.
coming
Don't
up
forget,
in the Canal
biggest thing,
Zones
of course,
community.
is the reunion. One last thing. May 29th is the deadline to enroll or to sign up for the reunion to get your the reunion rates, the Zonian rates, etc. But
And
first
the
and
discount.
foremost, you must be a member of the Pan Canal Society. Costs
Yeah, why
$60 a year, so it's less than a buck and change a week is all you're talking about here. But great cause, a great organization, and as we've said before, at the reunion you get enough discounts that you'll pay for your membership anyway. So it really is a free membership if you go to the reunion in essence. But anyhow, don't forget to sign up, and May 29th is the deadline for the reunion to get your room reserved and take advantage of all those great things. You can still show up afterwards and as a society member, or even if you're not, sign up there and still get all the benefits. But as far as reserving a room and getting the rate there, you may or may not be able to do that after the 29th. So make sure you do that. There's a great golf tournament. They're still looking for people, so make sure you sign up for that as well.
And the advantage of that, guys, too, is that your rooms will be close to where everybody else's rooms are. I don't know if that's a good thing or not, but normally that's a better thing.
Yeah, right. Yeah. That could be
People
one of those.
do stay up late in the Canals over
Be one of those hoping
here.
that
4
door
a.m.
doesn't
at the
go,
elevator,
clear.
packed. It's normal.
Yeah. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. No doubt about that. So,
Especially Friday night. So I always
check out
tell
what
people,
John just
pace
posted.
yourself. Pace yourself. You got to last through Sunday now.
yeah.
All right, but the reunion's coming up soon, guys.
So anyhow, and then
3,
again,
4 more months.
PanCanalSociety.org is a website. You can get all the information on the reunion, on society membership, on the museum information as well on there. Interesting what John Catanzaro just posted on here. I'd like to know the history about the Canal Zone motorcycle cops.
That'd be a great
That's
show.
absolutely one that we would have to do then for sure, because that's a great idea. It's
Great idea.
it would be interesting to find out. And like I said before, I think Sheila Chisholm, who does chime in here on occasion, she's mentioned it several times. I do believe that her dad was
Hewsom's too. I'm sure.
motorcycle cop,
I
so.
recall him mentioning that his dad also rode a motorcycle.
Yeah, and the guy that runs the Facebook page, the Canal Zone Police Facebook page, Fred Cotton.
Was it Robinson?
Is it? I thought it was Fred Cotton that ran it, or is it Robinson?
Fred Robinson.
Fred Robinson, that's who it is. Yes, Fred Robinson. His dad was a Canal Zone police officer, so that family has a long legacy. I'm sure they have information on the motorcycle cops as well. But yeah, that's a great call, John. We definitely have to do that, man. I like that thought here. What else? Real quick here, the guy Archie was from the Smithsonian. He all gave me some. Oh, right on. Okay,
That's
There's
another
how-
good show. I've been thinking of doing a show on the Smithsonian. What were those guys really doing down there? Let's hear the part that we all know about, and if anybody knows the part that we don't know about. that'd be
Right,
great to talk about.
absolutely. And then don't forget, guys, John Nemmers at jnemmers@ufl.edu is the email if you have anything you want to donate to the
great
museum.
guy,
Or if you've
easy
got
to
any
talk
questions
to.
or that. These guys, he was on our show one time. Him and Betsy, is it Bivens, I believe is her last name? They were on talking about the museum. You know what? I actually, check this out. I was thinking about this. We need to do something like a fun scavenger hunt using the museum. Okay. And not physically.
At the reunion?
No. Online. Okay. In other words, for example, I was looking at like, because now one of the things they've added to their collection is the phone books. Right? Which is where we're getting a lot of our great maps from the canals. I remember the back of the phone book always had all those maps. But I was looking through it, and they have, part of that section had all the personnel, the chief of this division, that person, and their phone numbers. And so I thought it would be a cool scavenger hunt that give you certain clues, having to do with this person held this position at this time, and it had to do with this, and we need whatever. And that gives you a clue to something else, and the whole idea is that you have to go to the museum collections website. and navigate different areas of the website to find different clues to find out what the answer is. And
unless you know how to use AI.
well, but that may not have it because AI is not going to give you phone numbers for who was the maintenance division chief in Balboa. Right. Yes. But it was cool to see those phone numbers and stuff. You know what? It was silly in there, but I went in there and looked at my phone number. You know, and it's
almost see my number in my head right now. I know it started with a 5-2.
Yes, 5-2, and then it went to 252 after a while. But it was 5-2. One of mine was
5-2-6-2-6-9. That's what I think I can see in my head.
See if you can remember your phone numbers, guys, and throw it up there. And then we'll go ahead and check them against the phone book because they were all there, man. And it was rare. I think that you had an unlisted number. If I'm not, I don't recall if you could even do that, man. But remember back in the day,
was there like a phone bill? Did our parents pay a phone bill, or was I mean, I think long distance for sure.
Oh yeah,
unless you had a connection like my family did.
Right. Or you go to a place
on Sundays. On Sundays we had a TO or just with a TI. I can't remember now. That had would call in and said, "All right, we're gonna call in," and then we'd get a freebie call to the States for 20 minutes.
I remember when I worked for Copa, I would travel a lot to the States, and again, you didn't want to. Yeah, it's a lot of money to call and say, "Hey, I made it here," to let mom and dad know you made it to wherever you're going.
I remember that was
so I would call collect, and they would not accept the charges. But that was the message that, hey, I'm here, I'm good. You know, if I call back again collect, then all of a sudden they're like, okay, I accept the charges. Hey, what's going on? But always they would say like, no, hey, have a good trip, love you, click. And then
listen, who remembers having to go to that one place behind the off Balboa Road,
off of
back there where you had to go to this little room to make your long distance phone call. Remember that little spot there behind
the cable place,
the Scottish Rite Temple?
Yes,
right behind
that was in Gavlin. That area was Gavlin.
Yeah.
Yep, and that was the cable and something cable and wireless.
Cable and wireless.
They ran it. I believe cable and wireless.
I remember we had to go there to make our long distance calls.
Yes, you sure did. You absolutely did.
We've seen the whole gamut of technology in front of us. Hey there, Miss Tanya.
I have our 6th grade yearbook from Balboa Elementary. Wow.
Yeah, and she was my neighbor when I was in 6th grade. I mean, right next door neighbor.
St. Mary's, because I left Balboa Elementary after 3rd grade and went to St. Mary's. I didn't go back till 9th grade of Corundu.
That's weird. I went 1st grade to Balboa Elementary, then 2nd grade at St. Mary's.
Yeah, I was 3rd grade, 1st, 2nd, and 3rd grade. You know, riding that bus, making fun of all the St. Mary's people if we drove by, and then the next year I'm there going to St. Mary's, going, damn.
Yeah, I think they were integrated 77. I think so too. Either 77 or 79.
It was one of those two, I do believe. But
I was I wasn't going to school during that time.
Correct.
And when all that happened, I remember.
Was there a Canal Zone police? Well, we're going to find out about that here in just a moment because again, my dad's going to be coming on here hopefully soon.
Hopefully soon. We still got to go. We got to fly through this, Willie. We still got some bochinche to go through.
But he's not in our studio yet, so we.
Oh, we got time. Okay, cool.
I need to figure out what's going on with him and find out if he's going to be joining us. I may have to just give him a quick call here.
Yeah, but no. So these are still good Canal Zone stories. Like I said, this podcast all about the towns, the people, and the things we did. What, Willie? We bring you the Canal Zone right to your living rooms every Friday. That was supposed to be on my intro, and I forgot to mention that, by the way, because I was gonna have throw in a new intro, and I forgot to mention that. But yes, we do bring you the Canal Zone to your living rooms every Friday. And this is all part of that, talking about those days and those towns and all the things we did. But as Willie is looking around, I am going to jump in on a bunch of bochincha news that we have a weekly segment on. And we like to start with the ports because that is the big news in Panama. In the Panama Canal. As you guys know, they took out the Hong Kong-based company out of the ports, and it's been back and forth. We've been informing you guys on this. I don't know if William knows that we cannot hear him. Or at least I can't hear him. Maybe you guys can hear it. Willie? Can you hear me? Okay, Willie, I can't hear you.
Keep talking.
There you go. Now I can hear you. So... we mentioned that, a bunch of stuff has happened. Last week, we mentioned that China was now stopping and doing these long inspections of all the ships that were flagged, Panamanian flagged ships, which is, we are now the second biggest country with registered ships, Liberia being number one. It used to be the other way around, but Panama kind of fell asleep and lost their number one spot. So the Chinese, to retaliate, they've been holding back all our ships and causing problems to, being registered in Panama. So this week, the United States stepped up and told China to knock it out because it's interrupting world commerce. It's, causing delays. So Big Brother has stepped up now and told the Chinese to knock it off, doing this retaliation over Panama. So that's the latest on the ports. We did have, Willie, for the first time, Virgin Voyages is a cruise line ship. Their first ever transit through the canal was a ship called the Brilliant Lady. And the reason I'm mentioning is on the side of her boat, I don't know if you have a picture of it or not, they put up in a humongous sign, que sopa, which is the way they say hi in Panama. Instead of que pasó, it's backwards, right? Paso, sopa. So
it basically is what's up in slang.
Yeah, what's up in slang. But truly, my age group, we didn't say que sopa. I don't remember
it. A little bit. Yeah, because it was backwards, que pasó. Like,
right.
Like you'd say, hey, laupe. Right? And that's
right. Laupe was big. And I mean, that whole talking backward thing kind of started around that time. I remember Frank Pereira was, he would, Kirillo was what they used to call me. Kirillo, which was Rick Royal backwards, So, que sopa, which was a really nice touch of the ship going
through. A lot, Ricky, was on and east.
Right. East, on.
No, exactly. Man, you're going to go here? No, you're going on, loco. Hey, you want to hear east, loco?
Yeah, backwards was the thing. Oh. But so it was a beautiful touch, and I wish we had pictures of it, but you can see it all over social media in big letters. Que sopa, Panama. So we're going to be seeing a lot of Virgin Voyages, cruise lines going through the Panama Canal, which has now become a big thing, right? All cruise lines do the transit. Right. Like we had mentioned before, 247 bookings for the calendar year, and that's a ton of cruise lines coming in. And people, I think it was like 80% of it, but people are getting off. The other 20% are just going through.
Think about this, Ricky. Let's go back to 1980, 1981. Right? You're on a causeway. It's the teacher in service day or whatever. So we're out on a causeway having a great time. It's just rocks, a little 1-2 lane road, and water. Now that same causeway has giant cruise ships on it. That's where Panama's gone, where they're actually docking in Panama on the Pacific side and as a cruise stay. I mean, it's amazing what they've done to that place and how the cruise business is growing through Panama and the canal.
And talking about docking, the USS Nimitz will be in Panama. Yes. I think it's this coming week, and the destroyer USS Gridley will be docking up there at the causeway and that one big pier out there that we have. Yeah. Maybe Rodman, but I did hear he was the one out there, Captain Andrew.
Yeah, and in fact, Captain Andrew's been talking about that, and I don't know if you were going to touch on it or not, but
no, I was on the chat, and he'll be on our show here in April to talk some Panama Canal piloting, and he actually was the one that ended up selecting where the Nimitz gets to park.
Correct.
So it's gonna be parked out there, secret, but we know where. And hopefully, if he gets permission, we'll be able to bring him on while he's either on a boat close to it or on the Nimitz itself. So stay tuned for that. USS Nimitz coming in.
And it's really cool that Captain Andrew, because they were talking about where they wanted to park it, and he was saying this is not a good area, it's not a safe area to park it with canal traffic and everything else, and
those danger rocks out there.
Yes, correct. And so here our friend Andrew Eftimitis is
sharing all this with us.
Man, this is where you got to park, man, and letting us know. By the way, hey guys, this is where they're going to be parking this ship.
Yeah.
So that's really cool.
Those are the perks of being from the Canal Zone.
Yeah, that's right. Zonians rule, man. Zonians rule.
And speaking of the Canal Zone, guys, the jungle training continues. And something we learned last week. I always thought, Willie, that this jungle training was done in like Darien, San Blas, etc. Right. But it's not. It's done right there, right off Fort Sherman, right there by Portobello.
Absolutely.
Yeah, well, I found this site on Instagram called Mar4 South, MARFOR South. Marfor South,
Okay.
and it's a group of, I guess it's an army base, and so before you go to the jungle school, you go to that army base. So I went there and I found out because they post all the stuff that they do training wise.
Okay.
So what they're doing at this time of the year is they're training in small groups, how to survive near the littorals environment, next to rivers, water, etc.
Sure. Yeah.
Machetes, how to use machetes and stuff like that.
Right on.
So Marfor South, if you look it up on Instagram, they'll keep you informed of what they do at that jungle training.
Well, and I'll tell you what, Ricky, talking about that jungle training, my dad's getting ready to join us here, and he actually has gone through it and photographing it, and he understands. He's gone through it more than one time. So
right,
he could
Let's
explain
ask
a lot
him
of what
about
they
that.
do, and that'll be a really cool piece to add there, because it is, again, part of the Atlantic side's, history and folklore was that jungle warfare. I mean, the astronauts going to the moon were training there.
We're trained there. Yeah,
it was a place that had a lot of importance to the military because of what it enabled us to do and learn. So that's going to be cool to learn all about that as well. A couple more people to say hello to, and then we'll keep moving along here. Good morning again from Japan, from
right
Mr.
on, sir. Good morning to you out there in Japan. Yeah,
Yeah.
We're going to jump into sports. Stay out of politics for a little bit. I mean, we love our politics, but I got some good sports stuff when we
go
get
ahead
back.
and do that, and then we'll go ahead and transition over and answer a couple
And
more.
do our architecture before we bring you to that. I wanted to show those pictures. On the sports, our very own Jerry Curtis from the Canal Zone made the Dirt Bike magazine cover. He's actually on the cover. I don't know I think we have a picture of it. Well, if you guys remember, he has the Ocean to Ocean motorcycle race, which is more like an enduro type thing. And the article, what I love to read about the article, was called, written by somebody else, of course. It was a brutal 3-day jungle challenge where 400 people start and 0 finish. And that was on the March of this month, this year's magazine, March 26th. So that's what the guy who wrote the article actually raced it. So we're gonna have to ask Jerry if 0 finished, because I do recall seeing a few people finish it.
Yeah,
but not very many. See, the bottom left, that's actually Jerry in that motorcycle.
Yeah, that's actually Jerry in that motorcycle. And this is like a mainstream motorcycle.
Oh yeah,
magazine,
everybody should know this
magazine.
one by now, right?
This is like Rolling Stone. This is like Time magazine. In the motocross world, this is it, man. And they're talking about this because it is now getting up there with your Paris to Dakar race, your the one in the Baja 1000. I mean, this is one of those grueling races that eventually, if you're going to say I'm an accomplished motocross racer worldwide in my career, well, did you check off these boxes? Did you do this race? And one of them is, did you do the ocean to ocean in Panama, right? Because it's really becoming well known, and it is truly a challenge. I mean, what you're seeing there is, they probably had a tough time picking pictures out of that, because there's a lot of them like that. That is really what that course is all about, man. It is. You got to know what you're doing, man.
You got to know what you're doing, right? Correct. And you have to be in shape too. Now,
100%. So
one thing about
Jerry.
this race is it's like skiing. They've got different levels. They got the black, which is what you're seeing there. They got the blue runs and they got the green runs. So you don't have to do these hard trails if you want to participate in this. They do have, I don't think they got bunny slopes, but they definitely have the green runs.
Yeah, right.
All right, something else going on right now in the Canal Zone is the Cayuco race. Just took off a few hours ago. Our very own Andrew F. Tomanes is an officer on that. I think he does the safety and security. Sure. Very highly competitive, which is a little bit different from the Cayuco race that we were used to. Only 15 to 16 boats participated, as you can see there, but their technique and the engineering of their boats, these guys fly compared to what we were doing. So it's a much different race. It's worldwide now, just like Ocean to Ocean. The Cayuco race, also known as Ocean to Ocean. It's very competitive, guys. I mean, these guys don't mess around. This is a very different race nowadays with big sponsorship and whatnot. But I think there was a lull, like Willie said earlier. I love that word, by the way.
Right.
And so they are picking it up again.
Yeah.
And like Pablo told us, Willie, they need to get the kids involved again. Now it's like a
Absolutely.
professional sport, very, very competitive.
Yeah.
Yeah. So soccer has taken off, guys. As you know, World Cup's coming up. So the Panama team played, that's it, yesterday, Willie, or today?
They're playing today, but they're playing South Africa.
Yeah, and they're playing again on Tuesday. I think they already played the first game, and it wasn't that.
I think it was at 12 noon today, or 12:30 or something.
And it wasn't all that spectacular. Like we've been promoting the heck out of that team. So
it's not a place where you're going to show a lot and try and do things. It's a place where, if anything, you know who maybe your starters are, but who are those fringe players that you need to bring in? Because for the World Cup, if you really want to do anything in a World Cup, you need to have depth. And so a lot of what they're doing here is trying some things out. The teams that typically, a team like Panama, what they're going to do is schedule games against teams that play similar to Ghana, Croatia, and England. So they can start prepping to see those formations, to see that kind of movement. Yeah. So, it's almost like preseason in football. The team that wins and blows people out in the preseason game typically doesn't do a whole hell of a lot in the regular season and vice versa.
Like my Giants, they were like undefeated in preseason. They couldn't score a single run yesterday.
There you go, exactly. So it's a test place right now. But yes, it's a reminder that we're getting closer to the World Cup. And so
World Cup,
times are around the corner.
And listen, Willie, there's 5 players from the Panama team that got world exposure, and 2 are very young. So the goalie Mosquera, he plays in Saudi Arabia, and he's very, very good. Everybody they've heard of him. Carrasquilla, which is probably the best soccer player in the Mexican league. He's a halfback, and then there's a guy named Emir Murillo, who was playing in France and then got transferred over to Turkey. And then the 2 kids, Kadir, which we promote a lot here from the Brazilian league, and the new one called Krug, Krug, who plays in the European league.
Yeah, he plays in Spain, I believe.
And these are the 5 big names on the soccer team.
Yeah.
All right. So Willie, architecture. Look at that, guys. So, this house here, guys, is up there next to Gorgas. If you guys recall, there was a street on the side of Gorgas that went up, and on the top is where most of the doctors live.
Herrick Road.
Yes, that's correct, Herrick. You are correct. And this was posted on one of the higher-end real estate companies that I like to look at and see what's going on in Panama, design-wise and stuff like that. And all of a sudden, this house popped up. And if you can, I really didn't hang up there very much. I don't really remember what the houses look like.
Right.
But that's an example of our beautiful architecture in the Canal Zone.
Yeah. No, that one is very, very nice. And it's that elevated look with the big windows that back then, of course, would open before the times of air conditioning. So you had a lot of that flow and that airflow.
Big eaves, those overhang
But as you can see, that front end, I don't know if that's been added afterwards. And maybe
that's been there for always. And that's just such a beautiful touch.
And that's the concrete that, we saw that in the 50s, they switched to those concrete homes that were able to breathe better and survive longer, obviously.
Well, these things are made out of redwood, so this thing is going to survive forever. So I saw that, and I noticed, Willie, that house was being rented, fully furnished, and they've done an incredible job. $6,000 a month.
Wow.
Wow.
They rent it at that price because they can, because somebody's willing to pay.
Because they can. The Canal Zone.
Always said that.
The developers are doing this.
Somebody can afford it.
Are doing this all over the Canal Zone. They're taking homes and they're doing this beautiful restoration. That's a restoration. They didn't screw up the
well, that's what I was thinking.
Design.
I think that the bottom was originally one of the open homes, and I think they've closed because that whole wall piece on the bottom there, that's not traditional Canal Zone.
On the bottom, I saw that. We call it wainscot. You're right. That wainscot. What it does, it protects.
Right.
Keep
No, but I'm
insects
just saying,
out.
I think this was one of those wooden homes up above, and the bottom was open on stilts, and I think they've enclosed it.
That is correct on the bottom, but look, you can see the old school garage doors.
Yes, and you can see that traditional sloped roof, that aluminum roof that it had on it, that metal roof.
That was it's actually copper.
Right,
copper or bronze, which
cool,
they used in back in the day.
So now, what about this home here?
Listen, I actually took that picture like in 1981 or 82. So it doesn't look like that anymore. But this house is on La Boca Road, and it's forever been my favorite. I even designed a house in Hawaii that almost looks exactly like that because it's always been one of my favorites. On La Boca Road, right next to the JWB. Today, I think it's like an insurance company or something like that, and it's got a big parking lot in front. So it doesn't look like that at all.
Agents and one of those people, not those typical Zonian groups,
because
that wasn't a Zonian house.
It's on La Boca Road.
Well, but remember, they had that section back there where they had all those shipping agents. And those
you're
people
right
that worked
about
for
that.
the oil companies. They weren't part of the canal zone. They didn't work for the canal company.
That is just majestic.
Because yeah, exactly. You're not getting that shit in the canal zone because they had to be in.
Yeah, right next to the Jewish community. And we got a story on why that became the Jewish community. I don't know. We might have already told you, but we love to repeat our stories. So anyways, that's another beauty. And then this one here, guys, so a lot, if you guys recall, a lot of our houses had these ginormous trees in front of them, like that. And this is right off El Prado. I think it was called Enterprise. It was right behind my house. I lived the house on El Prado. This is the McTaggers lived there, and the Sewells lived on the other side. But the reason for those big trees, if you notice, look at the shadow below it. Yeah. So that's what kept us cool, kept our homes cool. So if you recall, all our houses had a big tree in the front, the back, or on the side. So that was actually part of the planning.
And these are some of the most iconic, if you ask me, some of the most iconic housing in the canal zone was what you had on El Prado and Barnaby Street. Was those
concrete.
As much as they were generic, but they had a really, really good look to them. They were solid white, very thick concrete walls. The red, I don't know what you want to call that style of roof on there, but just very iconic. And when you stood up at the top of the admin, you looked down El Prado all the way to Stevens Circle. It was majestic, man. I mean, it was a beautiful, beautiful look to it. It really was. It exemplified the canal zone, right, in the way it was built. And as we've learned, that El Prado was not, by accident, those dimensions. It was to represent the locks, the width and length of the locks.
Correct.
So really, really cool design, really well laid out there. And to me, that's the most emblematic housing in the canal zone was that view of El Prado and Barnaby Street, So yeah, that's pretty cool, man. I'm looking forward to doing an architecture piece, with you on this. And like I said, guys, check out Edith Barkowitz's book, Architecture of the Canal Zone, because it's absolutely fabulous. Has all these kind of pictures there, and there's that Cayuca race again. So
yeah.
Well,
cool. To wrap it up, to get the show started, Willie, as you guys know, the the Canal Zone government, as today known as ACP, well, the administrator is his time is up in September, I believe it is. So right now there's all of a sudden all these names are starting to pop out on who's going to be the next administrator. And one of the names that our friends, a lot of the Canal Zone community seems to like is the lady by the last name is Morota. Morota. And she has been she's the deputy administrator right now, and she's been in the she's like a true Zonian. Yes. She went to school with a lot of our friends from the Canal Zone College at Texas A&M. John Cantzero, Andrew Eftimides, just to name a few. Martin Torrijos went there as well. And she started, 40 years working in the canal zone, in the Panama Canal. And she started in the industrial division and worked her way up. And she actually ran the whole the Third Locks project.
She sure did.
Panama Canal.
Yeah, absolutely.
So she seems to be the ideal candidate for the position, and we are all crossing our fingers that she gets it.
Yeah.
Of course, it's the second most important position in Panama to the president. So unfortunately, Willie, there's always a little bit of politics. So we'll see how she pans out.
But she does. She really is somebody that is, like you said, an ideal candidate for it.
Ideal. She is the perfect candidate on paper.
I mean, from the bottom up, she's worked her way up into that organization. So if anybody understands the way it works, not just from the top, it's her. Right, and so
it's her, because she started at the bottom and worked her way up. I mean, way up. She ran she built the canal. I mean, that's Gold Falls level.
Yeah, no.
With all due respect, that's Gothal's
and
level,
look
you
at
know.
The operation now is a lot more of an operation now than there was back in the day. Let's not kid ourselves, right?
This
you have
is
a whole new set of
cross our
licenses.
fingers that she
You've
gets
double the
it.
amount of ships going through. You've doubled the size of it, the capacity, everything else. You know, if she does land that gig, she's going to be spearheading the growth of the new lake and the new reservoir and everything else. So
yes, which she's also in charge of. Is that
Right.
that
Yeah,
new
so,
that new
you
Rio
know,
Indio project?
again,
So, right on.
you know, politics aside, you gotta put the person that's most qualified, and it's hard to find someone more than her. I would think. At this
Yeah, and
point.
I think she gets the Zonian label because she
Yeah.
has a lot of
Zonian
you
endorsement,
know,
too.
so a lot of love for the canal like a Zonian would
Yeah.
have.
Agreed.
And she knows all our friends, so there you go. That's a big bonus.
So good.
Well, as to wrap this up the Panamanian
Now
style.
he had another wrap up, and that was the second wrap up.
The Panamanian style rap, like in Panama, before you leave a party,
Oh, it's
20,
ridiculous.
30
man.
minutes.
That's why you got to do the Irish getaway.
Well, we have the Slim and Shorty announcement because this is pride and joy for the Canal Zone community.
Yeah.
As you know, that's our personal band. They write about our lives, they write about our communities, etc. But they made in Panama last week. It was a big weekend in Panama. You know, from the auto races,
a lot went
the
on
ambassador's
that.
wedding. You know, Austin Mamas got awarded, Willie, with best American company by the U.S. Embassy for U.S. values, quality and service, and well priced. So cheers to Austin Mamas. But they also had the Macro Fest. Macro Fest is like a big music fest, like the Coachella of Panama.
Yeah.
And you know, all the big names in Panama are playing at the big Macro Fest. Well, Slim and Shorty was one of those big names, and you know, they were one of the earlier shows, packed.
Yeah, saw that.
You know, and so congratulations to them. You know, these are our boys, Zonian folklore. Cheers to you guys for representing and show well done.
With 30+ years of continuing
putting out good music,
and they're still putting out some great music. I mean, their music certainly takes you back to the zone, no doubt about it, man.
Well, sadly, we are all done with Botija tonight, Willie.
Sadly. Well, that was a great job, Ricky. We can't go without giving you a little love here, man. Well done. But let's move right along here because we got some other things to catch up on, and we have our guest sitting patiently in the green room there. But we do have to
pay our bills at the beginning of the month.
So we're gonna go ahead and talk to our friends at Howler Monkey Sauce, and then from there we're gonna go into our new day in the life of a Canal Zone police officer, and we're gonna start with that Atlantic side. So, but let's find ourselves a Howler Monkey first.
We're still looking for our Howler Monkey hot sauce spokesperson. Just got an email from Panama.
You've got mail.
Hey, I'm Mac, and I grew up behind Howard Air Force Base in Panama. I can talk about hot sauce. On pizza, uy, que rico. So I just miro la camera and say, I'm Mac. I grew up in these trees next to Howard Air Force Base. Hey, are we really going to Napoli? And let me tell you, the flavors of ají chombo, garlic, and onions, they each hit you one at a time, and it's so delicious. Howler Monkey Original brings the true taste ají chombo of Panama to your pizza game.
Do you know a Howler Monkey who can describe the sweet heat of our original with authentic ají chombo peppers, or the fresh punch of verde where habanero warmth meets crisp bell pepper? How about the bold tang of Amarillo, yellow Scotch bonnets blended with mustard seeds? And of course, our hot, the same great flavor as original, fired up with red habaneros for that fire. Our sauces are all natural, no preservatives, gluten-free, pure flavor and pure fire. Are you the next Howler Monkey spokesperson?
Right, we're gonna find out who that next Howler Monkey spokesperson is. We still have a couple more months to go, so no worries there. But there's a couple more to come out as well. But it is an absolutely delicious hot sauce. I mean, I'm not just saying that because they sponsor our show, but I've been talking about them since day one.
That is correct.
It is. It's fantastic. Go on Amazon and check them out. They have 4 different flavors. I like the Amarillo myself, but
yeah. And if you're going to Reunion, they always have
yeah,
supplies there. But you got to get it by Friday, the latest Friday morning, because it's gone, bro.
Yeah,
it's gone.
right,
Thursday is the day to go shopping at the Reunion.
And if not, like I said, look them up on Amazon. They have their own channel there on Amazon, and they're absolutely fantastic. And they're 2 Zonians. They're 2 Zonians that have built this and put it out there. So it's a
great
fantastic
kids.
thought. But
listen, they sponsor the Canal Zone Reunion. They sponsor
they're
sponsor the Panama
man.
Canal Society
Without a doubt.
Reunion.
Without
These
a
guys
doubt,
are
yeah.
tremendous for the Canal Zone community.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
cheers to that before we get this segment started.
Yeah, no,
Right on,
absolutely.
guys.
Salute. But as you guys can see on our screen there, we have Detective Sergeant Ron Benninghoff joining us here, former Canal Zone police officer and another great Zonian, also former Air Force personnel, which is how he got to the Canal Zone to begin. So, Dad, hello. Welcome to the show. Glad to have you on.
Welcome, sir.
Yes, I'm glad to be here. I'm glad to help out on this project of yours.
Yeah.
I've been here listening to you while you were going through the news. You brought up the Nimitz, and there was Spacebird. I assume the Nimitz is coming in the Atlantic side.
No, they're actually going to go. They started in San Diego. They're going to working their way all the way down around Argentina. They're going to be making stops in Peru, Chile, and Brazil, or Peru, Brazil, Chile, and then they're going to park on the eastern side of the and. But actually, just going to cruise around for a year.
Tour. They're going to retire the Nimitz, so this is their farewell tour.
Yeah,
I don't know if it would fit through the canal.
No, they wouldn't fit. They got to go all the way around.
Probably the new locks it would, I'm sure, but
no, they can't. They can't. They already talked about it. So it's going all the way around.
Interesting.
Okay.
Yeah,
because they tied up a lot of Navy ships pulled into that long pier they had in Cocosolo.
Yeah,
and they put their boys off into the taxis. They go in town, and then I'd help them get back on their ship when they get back to Cocosolo.
That's public service. Public service at its best. It's not always arresting people.
Right.
But so anyway, so the way this all came about, guys, is last week we were talking about Gatun, right? We were talking about the Atlantic side, and Vern joined us, our Atlantic side correspondent. He was telling us about the town and what happened there. And the unique thing about Gatun is that with the new set of locks, Gatun became sandwiched. Right? Very similar to on the Pacific side, the Miraflores, the motocross track, right? That became sandwiched between the new locks and the old locks. And so therefore it ceased operating. It went away. Same thing happened with the Gatun. The majority of that town went away, but they left part of it intact. You can actually go there. I did some research on how to do it, and you have to contact ACP and get permission, and they'll let you on and, to tour, but you have to have a purpose, not just, hey, I want to go check this place out, right? You got maybe a historical purpose, a cultural purpose, or something. But they do have a part of Gatun that is still intact. So nonetheless, on Saturday morning, the day after the show last week, my dad calls and goes, hey, great show, a lot of great information there. But there was a lot of really busy things going on in that Atlantic side area that we didn't cover. And for obvious reasons, what Vern's talking about is where we lived, kind of our stomping grounds, the movie theater, here's the teen club, here's the pool, and going to school and all those things. But at the same time, while we're in school doing all that stuff, guess what? The Canal Zone Police is out there patrolling in the areas there, so they know the town very well. They know the roads, they know the buildings, they know the layouts and everything. So
everybody's routines.
Yeah, especially everybody's routines, right? So I started thinking, hey, what a great opportunity then to really start learning about all the different town sites in the zone and the different layouts and places here, and kind of do a day in the life of a Canal Zone Police, going through the different areas as they're going patrolling in the zone. So here we are in 1969, okay? From my dad from 68 to 70 was stationed or in Cocosolo and working for the Canal Zone Police on the Atlantic side, and then came back to the Pacific side. So that's what we're going to do here is learn about it, but a different take on it. That is from the viewpoint of a Canal Zone police officer and what they knew the zone to be in the layout there. So thank you, Dad. That's going to be a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to that. On this view here, what you see, guys, is on the right side, that's the map that comes from the phone book. And this, again, is thanks to the folks over at the Canal Zone Museum Collection in Gainesville. They now have all the phone books up there in PDF format. And remember, the back of the phone books had all those great Canal Zone maps. They had all the road maps. So one of them had basically a layout of what the Atlantic side was from Gatun all the way up to Coco Solo and everything in between. And I took it and I was able to, with the AI, overlay it on a Google Earth map from 1970. So you kind of get an idea of what it was there. It's hard to see everything there, but we're going to pinpoint some different areas here. So for the folks that didn't live on the Atlantic side to learn what it looked like, how big it was, and everything like that. So Dad, you were in the Canal Zone Police. You actually left the Canal Zone Police for a little bit and then came back. And,
let me elaborate on that a little bit, because you were talking about that Jewish Community Center on
the Boca Road. Yeah.
Road. Actually, while I was in the police, Wednesday nights I'd go over to the community center and I used to teach photography.
How about
People
that?
would come in at there, and I'd teach Wednesday nights on photography and actually, take pictures, let them take pictures, get them processed, show them what they could do and couldn't do with a camera.
Sure.
It was interesting. I was good friends with the rabbi, and we got along well, so I helped him out.
Well, it makes sense with your background, because remember, when you remember, obviously, but for everybody else, my dad joined the Canal Zone Police from the U.S. Air Force. He was stationed in Albrook as part of the photo and media unit that was opened up there. And so he was very familiar with cameras, and this was what he did for a living in the Air Force.
Yeah. Let me just back up one other minute on what you were talking about before, is Herrick Road.
Yeah.
The first time I came on the police force, that was my first assignment, Herrick Road.
And that was a walking beat.
Walking beat, right.
Oh my goodness, that is way up there. That's that's like a San Francisco hill all the way up there.
That's why they say seniority has its privileges.
And I got to go through the whole courthouse and make sure all the doors were locked, and then walk up the hill. And actually had to get called up there one morning. They said, Ron, go up the house so-and-so and help the lady out. She was, I hadn't been there long, I guess, but she would feed the Mondays.
Oh, yeah.
They're a pack animal. And she was feeding them bread, and a couple of slices of bread, throw it out. Before you know it, she was using up a loaf of bread in the morning. And then when she said, this has got to stop, and she tried to shut that off, well, they started coming up the steps after her. So,
oh, my God. Yes, of course. Yes.
Their attention and put them back in the jungle. And that's what we do.
There was also a neighborhood on the side. If you went like by the courthouse that you mentioned, and then you went up on the side there, on the side of Ancon Hill, looking down on 4th of July Avenue, there were some homes up there too, if I recall.
That's Herrick Road.
No, Herrick Road's the one that went up, which is the one that went up on the side of Gorgas. Then, and it went up to like the roundabout on the top. I think there's like two different. Well, maybe I'm wrong.
There's a cul-de-sac on the top. You just go
cul-de-sac. Yes,
and come back down. But there was a road that went down alongside the district court and went up quite a few distance, and that's where the phone people that were stationed there. That's where they lived.
God, and the like the AT&T folks or whatever it was back then.
Cable and wireless or whatever.
Cable and wireless, yes. Okay. Because I do. There's like 2 or 3 homes up there.
And wasn't there a road from there that at one point led to Corey Heights that they ended up closing from that side?
Yes, because that's the road we took to get to the top of the hill a couple times there.
Not up on Herrick Road.
No. This is on like the 4th of July Avenue side.
Yeah, further down towards
Chorrillo
and that limits on that side there. But there was another road, and they ended up closing it because it gave access to Corey Heights that they realized they didn't like. It was, with Panama right across the street. But anyhow,
that Corey Heights was a hot spot, particularly near the end when the invasion.
Well, military intelligence was up there.
Heights had like a cave in there, bunker.
Yeah.
And, I went up representing the Canal Zone and went in there and.
Yeah, good friend of ours that we grew up with, Misty Forsyth. Her father worked in one of those offices inside the mountain.
Yeah.
Military intelligence.
Yeah,
yes.
my dad was with Canal Protection during that invasion planning period, so they were.
Yeah, you probably
they were
worked with
involved
Mr.
in all that.
Forsyth. He was a major back then.
But
Yeah, we had a good time there.
yeah, I'll bet. And that's something that maybe with enough lead time we can plan it. Start talking about that for Just Cause leading up to it there and everything.
Wish we had.
That'd be great. That'd be great. Because Mr. Benioff, you were actually present on the January 9th riots. You were actually there.
As Air Force, but as Air Force, not as
yes.
police.
Air Force. Yeah.
Yes.
I have a picture that helmet, military uniform, helmet, and camera behind a tree right alongside the Tivoli Hotel.
Oh, we would love to see that on the show.
I think I have it on here. I'll have to pull it up one of these. In fact, let me see if I can find it here real quick while you're talking about that. And then we're gonna catch the train to the Atlantic side and get back over there. But hold on here, I've got it here somewhere. I just had it up earlier.
Yeah, my first enlistment into the Canal Zone Police, I didn't even lose a day's work. I discharged from the Air Force on one day, and the next day raised my right hand to the Constitution of the United States and was a Canal Zone police officer.
That's perfect.
And
because normally when you discharge from the military, you repatriate back to the United States if you're overseas.
Yeah, we did. I had to ask permission to discharge out of the country in a foreign country.
Right.
And they
because they'll send you back to the U.S. and then you discharge as a civilian in America, not in a foreign country. So.
And then that was, like I said, my first job was Herrick Road, walking. And then we moved out on the Gamboa and up on the ridge in a wood frame up there. And then
we actually have a video of that area. That one of our, again, Captain Andrew F. Tomates was up there and took some impressive video of Gamboa. How restored.
First stop for new policemen, and then they finally got located somewhere closer to Balboa.
Right. Well, that's like everything else. It's all seniority. You gotta earn that one.
There's the picture.
Yeah. So here we go. This is you in during 1964 in the riots, hiding behind a tree, filming near the Tivoli there. I say hiding in the most professional way because there was gunfire, so it's not like you're just standing around running around the camera out, And
that's an Aeroflex, German Aeroflex 35 millimeter camera, and that magazine on top holds 200 feet of 35 millimeter film.
Wow!
And the case would hold 4 magazines, so you had 800 feet of film to shoot.
So you were like a techie back in the day.
Oh yeah,
he's the one that and you look back at during like when you watch those documentaries of World War II, these are the guys that are filming it, and the bullets are going by, and they're not immune to them, So he don't have a gun to shoot back. He's got a damn camera, so he's got to be very careful, But that's how we get all the history and capture all that stuff, right? And we get able to see it later on and see what's going on there. So. We're always grateful for that kind of stuff. And
in fact, I had an opportunity to get into a little business in Panama, so I left the police, and me and another guy started a photo business, but it didn't really work out. So I opened up a photo shop for an Indian fellow that I knew in Panama, and some of the policemen would stop in, say hi while I was working there, and all of a sudden one come in and says, "We're hiring." I said, "I'll be there." And
I'll be right there.
I went back in and then went right over to Cristobal.
Yeah.
Excellent.
So there was a question earlier in the chat, speaking of Cristobal, and that's a great segue to go back to Cristobal now. The police station in Cristobal, and we're going to talk about the police station in Gatun, but was that the main police station in Gatun, or did Cristobal itself have a bigger, like a main precinct?
No, Cristobal had no police station.
Okay, so Gatun was where it was at.
Cocosolo was part of the original naval base.
Right.
And then they converted it. They had a big pier there. There was a lot of action there. It was right alongside the high school. And they are right on top of also a naval sea thing. They kept their seaplanes there.
Yes, I remember because they had those ramps that go right into the water.
Right below but the big pier on Cocosolo is right by the Breakers Club and by the elementary school, which was right alongside the Breakers.
Okay.
Down in the Cocosolo.
Interesting. Well, we're gonna look at all that stuff.
Was you and Scott were there with me?
Yeah,
and
I don't remember.
We had a dog, large dog, and that dog, he liked the high school because he'd go down there and go into high school. And
that's funny.
They called me, come get your dog.
Yeah, we did. We had a big Great Dane. I don't remember that. I just know from pictures and stuff because I was, a year old, maybe a little over a year old when we moved to the Pacific side.
He liked to go down and go into the elementary school, and then other times he'd go into the theater and run down the aisles in the theater. Somebody.
That's Officer Benninghoff's dog. Give him a call.
Yeah.
Come and get your dog. That's funny. So let's look at the Atlantic side here to kind of get a little bit of perspective. And got a question. Did you live in Cocosolo? Yes, those old Navy houses were huge. I had several friends who lived there. Yeah, so we lived in Cocosolo, and that was just a very small housing area. Is all it was.
It had both. It had the concrete ones at the lower part of the Cocosolo, and the upper part was the wooden four-family.
Okay.
We were up in the wooden four-family.
Well, one of the things that we were talking about last week was the size of the Atlantic side, because we don't have anything to reference it on, and how there's a lot of smaller communities and whatnot. So I started kind of contemplating, well, how big was it compared to the Pacific side? And so what I did was I came up with a set of maps here that'll give you some perspective on distances here. And so on the right-hand side, you see there Gatun to Cristobal High School. It's a 7-mile straight line. Okay. On the left side, in comparison, from the Balboa Yacht Club to Pedro Miguel Locks, that's 7 miles, roughly. So it kind of gives you an idea of what the Atlantic side was size-wise compared to the Pacific side. It really wasn't much smaller, in all honesty, because after Pedro Miguel, right, you've got that long jaunt there over to Gamboa, and that's pretty much and really Gamboa, I don't consider it the Pacific side. I think Gamboa was kind of the central canal.
Yeah.
It's just that it wasn't big enough to warrant its own big schools and communities in that sense. So those people obviously went to Balboa, but really the Pacific side was probably to Pedro Miguel and Paraiso is really what you could consider and so they really weren't that different in size. It just seems like on the Pacific side, they were all kind of just right next to each other, right? Where in the Atlantic side, they kind of were spread out. And
Cristobal High School, if you didn't know of that originally was a military building. And
right.
It's similar. The military did have huge places like that. I later on in my career, well, not later on, but in the Air Force in my career, I went over to England. On the way, we stopped at Newfoundland.
Right.
They had a couple of these buildings that the military had put up, and they're huge. Everything is in them. The mess hall, the commissary, everything is in the one thing. And that's what the Cristobal High School used to, the military building that done everything. Bed, doors, sleeping.
Right. Yeah, I'm trying to find the map here because, I was able to download the maps from that era, and to give you an idea of where, because again, it is the Atlantic side is kind of spread out. There's things in between. It's kind of weird how Cologne is part of Panama, but yet it's really in the middle of the canal zone, right? Because it's either surrounded by water or the canal zone on all sides. So it's kind of strange the way those borders were made up in the communities and everything.
Well, it shows that during the period of time from the war and later, how we made use of what the military had there, and you see that a lot. Cocosolo Hospital is way out of the way of anything. It's on the road, the highway over to this side, but I think that was military also. But anyway.
Yeah, and I wonder often if that was maybe also due to terrain, and limitations on where you could build and whatnot, because it seems like the Atlantic side had a little bit more hills and water and everything else, where the Pacific, they filled it all in. You just had one large flat area to build on, so maybe that kind of impacted it as well. But So you would a typical day for you then. Canal Zone Police. Let's assume, and you guys did 8-hour shifts. You had 3 shifts. You had your 8 to 4, right? 4 to midnight, and then midnight to 8. Correct.
Right.
So let's just go through an 8 to 4 shift, a typical shift. So like we're in school, these guys are going around and watching our backs and seeing everything that day to day that goes on, both Atlantic and Pacific. But again, we're focusing on the Atlantic side here. So you back in that time and in your career, did you take the car home with you, or did you have to commute to the police station?
No, I had to commute. Normally, in fact, when I first got over to Cocosolo, got there, I worked in Cocosolo, the same town site, which was convenient because then I could stop and have dinner.
Sure.
No. But we were talking a little bit earlier about how many units did we have over there. I know we had Cristobal, probably Rainbow City,
Gatun, obviously.
Gatun, Cocosolo, Margarita, and we had traffic cars, and it's not a big bush patrol, but
right.
So that,
and then probably
that was
a couple of platoon leaders or supervisors or sergeants.
well,
maybe
you had the same as we had here. You have 2 sergeants and a lieutenant. The lieutenant's the commander.
Okay.
One sergeant would be in at the desk all the time, and the other would be out on the road.
Okay.
And
so
then
maybe about give or take about a dozen cops on any given shift, then probably on the Atlantic side.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. So
now Gatun being so far out and Cocosolo being so far out. When I say so far out of Cristobal, Cristobal was the main police station there.
Right. Right.
And the court was there, and everything operated out of that. So rather than have a lot of travel from Cocosolo into Cristobal and then into Gatun and then back out, but we went directly to Gatun and went to work. Gatun had a police station, and also a women's prison was there. And so we used that as a headquarters, so to speak. And so I'd leave my house in Cocosolo, drive out through Cocosolo, out onto the highway, past Margarita, and out to Gatun. Get into and we would change shifts, personnel at the police station there. There was no police working in there. We were the police.
Right.
So anyway, it was a good trip, and we'd park a car outside, pick up the radio car, and go ahead about the business as a normal thing.
Sure.
We probably got there, like I said, the 8 o'clock was the start of the day shift. You'd be in there. You usually get in early, 15 minutes early, be able to talk to whoever was on duty for the previous shift, and change shifts, and he'd go home, and I'd get out and get in the radio car.
Now, let me ask you, regarding this station here and that women's prison, there's a rumor that in '68, when Torrijos did the coup and Arnulfo Arias was overthrown, that he fled to the Canal Zone. There's a rumor that he went to that they kept him at the women's prison in Gatun.
True. Not only him, but several insurgent factions that people in the government went over to the Canal Zone and requested assistance or asylum or whatever. And that was a good place for him because it was out of the normal areas that you would expect.
Sure.
Like a hiding place.
Yeah, because think of one backstop is the locks, so you're not coming across that side. And the other way, you got to go through all of that, the Fort Gulick, Fort Davis, and all that area before you can get there. So, yeah, you definitely are isolated there. So that is true. Then it's funny because I was researching that, and it says, in a lot of the AI, it says, there's no reports on it or anything, but here we're talking to one of the cops that was in Gatun at those stations. And so, yes, it turns out that Arnulfo Arias was, in fact, kept at the Gatun prison there during his brief stay before he ended up going to Miami.
Yeah.
So,
and he wasn't the only one. It was a good use of it because there wasn't too many women wound up staying in prison.
Sure. Yeah, you probably had a lot of empty beds, and there's not a lot of people, not a lot of prying eyes, I guess, either.
I don't think it was a big prison, but
yeah.
Anyway.
Interesting. So, and then we have let's go through a couple other questions real quick that people have here. There's just comments here. In Mindy, they had the Mindy Enduro in the 70s from the old Mindy farm. Okay, so a little motocross race in there. Let's see here what Vern's talking about. My favorite house was on the 3-story duplex in Margarita. Do you have access to blueprints of the old wooden houses? I'm not sure if Ricky does, but I'll tell you what, that book that Edith Barkowitz has all the blueprints in it, has everything you want in it, man.
Yeah, I'll look for that, Vern.
I've never heard of a 3-story house. So apparently it was there, but.
Yeah. Well, weren't the ones in Diablo 3? No, they were 2 stories in Diablo. Those old ones.
Everything that I know was a 2-story.
Unless you count the bottom floor as a story then as well. But
a lot of them were up off the ground, and you could park underneath. The maid's room was underneath, and
right. Is that Pete's wife? I'm not sure if that Pete's wife. Impressive production quality of this show continues to me. Right on.
Well, thank you. Well, that's truly a product of all the donations we get and the
yes.
Ads and stuff like that. And we do appreciate it, guys.
Yeah,
this is what happens when we get those donations.
It does, because the AI is really fun. It's an amazing tool, but they're not free, right? Those things do cost money to generate images and videos and all that stuff. So we appreciate you guys. I appreciate that, and certainly those beers help. But yeah, we have fun with it, Pat. I love doing this graphic stuff, and I've gotten some cool stuff here. I mean, this one here. Look, it incorporated the Canal Zone Police patches and the badge. It's even got the bicentennial image of the Canal Zone Police car. I think that was one of those Caprice Classics or whatever they had there.
Those were beautiful, yeah. I got a picture of my dad in one of those.
It's got the Canal Zone Police hat. The shirt's brown, which they didn't have for the Canal Zone Police. But, early on, that was the patch they used, that triangle patch. When my dad was on the Atlantic side, they used that triangle patch. And then they went on to the more traditional yellow one, which you see at the top.
Actually,
top right
when I went on, all of the uniforms were tailor-made. You were given the material, and there was what would you call it? Not a seamstress, but
a tailor.
A tailor.
Tailor in Panama.
Yeah.
And we went down there. They take your measurements, and so the uniform was tailor-made to you.
That's amazing.
Jacket, shirts, pants.
How about that? That's Canal Zone Police for you right there.
Well, it's because those guys look sharp, and there's a good reason right there.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
And then later on, when things got easier, there was a height and a limit and a height minimum to get on the Canal Zone Police Force. Correct. I didn't have any trouble. I was 6'4".
Right.
But later on, that got put away, and we were getting people in that were quite a bit smaller.
Right.
And that was when the new patch came out, and then it was just like a light blue shirt taken off the rack in the store and put the patch on it and put the badge on it.
Got a little bit more efficient.
Wasn't like it was before.
Yeah, no, definitely. And that's the one I remember, though, is that one. And then, of course, your I guess what you would call your officers, your lieutenants or whatever, wore the white shirts.
Right.
Or was that dress uniforms? But you see that like in the parades and stuff. You'd see
lieutenants
all the different. Okay, there you go. And then, of course, when you became a detective, if you were smart, because it was hot as hell and humid as hell, you wore a guayabera because that was considered business casual.
That came a little later also. When I got in the detective office, it was a shirt and tie and a jacket. Or jacket, suit jacket, whatever you want to wear. But.
Right.
And that went on for quite a while, and then finally we relaxed that and got into guayabera.
Yes, yeah. I'm still working on James Slater's song, that Guayabera song. But yeah, that was a very comfortable outfit to wear in Panama. I mean, there's a reason why, even presidents wear them to this day, because it's a great look and it's quite comfortable. But so real quick, Paul Austin's asking here or mentioning Officer Laporta was a great Atlantic Side police. Do you remember that name, Dad? Laporta?
Yes, he wound up as the sergeant in charge of the traffic horse, the traffic unit.
Okay, right on. There you go there. Right on. Let's see here, Mr.
Bennett. Like Cadillacs, because I bought a Cadillac from him.
Oh, you did. I always remember.
Mom liked that. She liked driving into Panama. And then
Heck yeah.
we had another policeman named Beerbaum. He didn't even work outside. He was in the dispatch office. He'd been there years and years and years. He had a Cadillac, and I bought his, and Mom used that to go to work.
Well, that was funny because she would go to work in that, and she had a nicer car than her boss.
Exactly.
She pulls into a Cadillac, parking next to him in his little Datsun or whatever, and is like, "This ain't right, man. I'm your boss, and you're driving a Cadillac, and I'm not." You know. And then I remember, was that the same Cadillac that the Navy guy smashed into?
Yes.
Oh my God. We lived on Amador Road. We were the third house from the gate, the front gate there at Amador. And the car was parked on the front road there, on the road there, next to the sidewalk. And next thing you know, you hear this loud crash. And I'll never forget it because you didn't hear any brakes. You didn't hear like a screeching and then a crash. All you heard was a crash. And you're talking, late 70s, right? Big Cadillac, right? The Cadillacs back then were gigantic. And this thing had been moved up about 20 or 30 feet. The whole back end was smashed. And who was it, Dad? What was that story on that guy?
I don't remember.
Wasn't it a Navy officer that was
Oh
smashed
no, it was a
drunk?
Navy. I don't know. It was a Navy. I don't know who he was. Or I don't recall anyway.
But he was trashed.
Well, yeah.
And this was in a Navy car, the Navy official business car. It wasn't in his personal vehicle.
Yeah.
In broad daylight, the guy's trashed and he smashed it and destroyed that car. So, anyway, that's another story for another day. But let's see here. That
didn't cost us to repair
it. No, heck no. That's a nice check from the Navy. That Pier one was in Coco Solo. There were hobby shops on Pier 1. Yes, there were. There's a lot of stuff that went on there in that area. So, Paul, did you live in Coco Solo as well?
Fact about the Nimitz when you were talking about it. A lot of Navy ships pulled into that pier because it's a huge pier, and they could fit in there. And but I was wondering why they wouldn't pull in there with a Timmins. But
well, it's no longer. You probably can't secure it.
Yeah.
Because it's a private pier now. It's a private
railroad tracks went out there.
Yeah.
That's how big the warehouse at the end of it was.
Sure. And Paul's mentioned here, it seems like there was 11 miles of continuous paved roads on the Atlantic side. Well, it was a long way in between the towns, it seems. It wasn't, like I said, the Pacific side, you could go from Amador through Balboa, La Boca, Ancon, Diablo, Los Rios, and it's all one continuous, big neighborhood in Metropolis, whereas Atlantic side, there's a lot of room in between these towns. So
it shows you like Gatun. Gatun had their own police station. Then the woman's prison. And I'm in Coco Solo, and then the middle was Margarita.
Yeah.
And then you go in from there to Cristobal, and there was the court and the headquarters and everything there.
Yeah, no, absolutely. There was also huge abandoned buildings in Coco Solo near the commissary. Yeah, that's one thing that we saw a lot of, and even on the Pacific side, you saw that.
Feeling of working with the military. As you know, the Canal Zone, and really the jurisdiction was the Canal Zone. And all that was in it, including military bases. But there was an agreement with the military and the Canal Zone. We worked very well.
Yeah.
Stayed off of their stuff. However, if for some reason or other, and it happened to me, I'm chasing one with a red light and a siren, and we go right in through the gate, and they're waving us through.
So that was the protocol. If you're coming in with lights on, they're not stopping asking you questions. They wave you right through.
Sure.
Yeah.
But then again, we'd run into things. I ran into it later in the detective office. Got tied up with a situation with a woman and a small child was out roaming around at night without anybody, lost, and I wound up taking the child away from her into Gorgas and then admitting the child for evaluation. And we finally found the mother, and she come in, and they were military. And she got quite upset that she couldn't imagine why I could take her child away.
Right. She thought she was exempt from that.
But anyway, and what's nice about it, we take care of the immediate situation, and then we talk with the military and give it back to them. It's their people. Let them handle it.
Sure.
Yeah, and by the same token, they catch a civilian or something, and they give them to us.
Right. I thought they were safe.
We had a very good working relationship.
They thought they would run in the military base and be safe. I don't think so. Here you go. Canals on police. Here you go. So there's Frank saying Gamboa had everything but a high school. Yeah, it did. It was almost an isolated area, right? You had one road in, one road out, literally one way.
Had a golf course.
Yeah. That's Frank Dupree, Dad. That's chiming in there. That's right in the chat. But what else do we got here? Okay, here's an interesting question that came up earlier, Dad. What was the most common crime, would you have to guesstimate, back in the 60s or 70s in the Canal Zone? Was it burglary? Was it...
No, that was pretty much handled. There was that, of course, but a lot of issues with young women and military people. And they'd be going out, and all of a sudden they must make an agreement, and then they leave and no pay, and then they'd be in the police station.
No pay. Services rendered.
Oh, I'll tell you, I had an interesting thing that in my life it probably had anyway, got a complaint, and it was this time it was a military guy, young guy, Army. And he'd been stabbed.
Oh wow!
So he came in and told us, and he had made some arrangements with the ladies on the street. They got off and went down under the bridge over on the west side. And anyway, he didn't play. She stabbed him, and then I got in the case. He's okay. Got him in the hospital. Got him out. Got her in. She was 13 years old, and she was working the street.
That's so
and I got off, and I went home. And at the time, I lived right down here on Amador Road. I went in, and I went in the bedroom, and I looked at your brother. He was 13.
Right.
And I just looked at that, and I says, it doesn't make any sense.
What's wrong with this world?
So,
wow.
But anyway. Yeah, we had quite a bit of that.
Wait. And as a true bochinchero, was that a 13-year-old Canal Zone boy?
No. The Army guy, I don't know what he was.
Oh, it was an Army kid? Got you. Yeah.
Okay. The girl that was... Unfortunately, when, that type of thing, there were certain places you go to a bar and you go to this place. And
Of course. Well, any place where American military frequents, there's going to be that kind of stuff because people look at it as an opportunity.
Girls that work the street.
I think the Ancon Inn had a MP station there already.
Yeah,
I think people showed up to work there.
Yeah, you had to check in there before. So here's a couple other interesting comments. The FAA built houses along the water, and some of those duplexes are single family houses. So, and that was an interesting thing is that you had your general Canal Zone population, people that worked for the Panama Canal Company, for the Canal Commission, whatever it was. But then you had those other ones that weren't directly part of that Canal Zone group, but supported the canal in some way. The FAA, because remember up until Tocumen Airport, you had Albrook Field. The other side of it was the airfield. And so on the Atlantic side, you had FAA as well because you had France Field out there. You had a lot of the shipping agents. A lot of those guys were Americans and Brits. A lot of those kids that we went to school with grew up knowing those guys, but they were not.
Well, we had one from the Cristobal High School '89 class reunion on our show. One of those kids was
Bernard Joseph.
Was British, yes.
Yeah, he's British. And we kept making fun of it. He kept bringing his British thing up there. But yeah, it's true. So there were other folks that were part of the Canal Zone but didn't work for the Canal Zone that were still allowed to live in those areas, and they had some homes and stuff designated to them as well. John Catanzaro is asking, who were some of the cops on the Atlantic side? Well, obviously my dad, Ralph Gibson, Butch Eckel. Yep, Tom and Alan Eckel's
Oh, Mr.
dad.
Overstreet was a cop. Yeah,
yep,
I knew the
Mr.
kids.
Overstreet.
Laporta.
Laporta, obviously,
right,
as Paul Lawson just mentioned there. So
Dave Beach, and he lived out in Coco Solo also.
Wasn't he involved in motorcycle racing too?
Not Beach. Can't think of his name.
Okay, because I know there was one Atlantic of those Canal Zone police officer that was involved in the motocross or motorcycle racing.
Yeah.
So let's see what Pat's going to do here. Pat's going to try this again. Let me try again. What was the strategy of patrolling the zone in Balboa that was so close to places like Chorrillo? It seemed like there was a line that did not get crossed often. Well, I'm going to just chime in with something real quick because I know there was some lines crossed on occasion, usually about 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning on some overpasses. But I'll let my dad tell you about those lines being crossed.
Well, go ahead. Or you want me to?
Go ahead. Go ahead.
There's on the entrance or the entrance to the bridge to go over to the West Bank. Somewhere in that area, there's a road that goes up over the bridge. They built an over there. There wasn't a building along the whole road. I think to get on the road, you got onto it somewhere from Boca or I don't remember how.
From Gavilan. It was back in Gavilan. There was a gate open back there.
Okay.
There used to be a gate there.
And you could go up onto this short overpass. And the other side of it was Panama. And so at times, we'd make some arrangements with either a prisoner or turn over some exchange prisoners. But we go up there, meet him, shake hands. He'll take the guy, put him in your car, and take him back to our station, or they vice versa.
No extradition papers filed. None of that stuff. That's the best part, man. That's like, hey, I got somebody you need. Yeah, you got somebody I need. Yeah, okay.
During the latter part of before the treaty, we were working more closely with Panama, and we actually had a Panamanian lieutenant was assigned to the Balboa police station. He had an office right alongside the desk.
Interesting. Inside the police station.
Yeah. And he had his secretary in there too.
Wow.
And so, you could work things out with them.
Right.
And just quicker, cleaner.
Sure. And Ricky's mentioned that like his dad was one of the first Panamanians to be hired for the Canal Zone police, and what they decided at one point that, hey, we need to bring in Panamanian Spanish-speaking police officers to kind of be that buffer, I guess, in a sense.
Sure.
That is correct. Yes.
Because the last time I worked in the on a uniform was on the boundary car 59, and that's a 2-man car, and it's one Panamanian and one American.
Ah, okay.
And,
okay. Well, that makes sense because on the boundary, you'd want that to be able to, help straighten stuff out, any misunderstandings or whatnot, But so getting back now, we'll make our way back to the Atlantic side, and so you get to the police station in Gatun. You kind of switch off now. You pick up the shift, any special orders, whatever instructions and stuff.
We got out there 15 minutes early or so, about 7:45. Get in there and park my car outside, and then he'd probably be there already, whoever was working the previous shift.
Right.
And the police car would be out front, and he'd be inside waiting. So we talked, anything go on, where do you go, anything happening, anything I should know.
Sure.
And then he'd take off and go home.
And now it's your shift.
So I'd get in the car, and probably, as we talked about a little bit, I wasn't quite sure of the train times, but one of the things we used to do, which I think most police in anywhere, they usually hit the train stations and meet the incoming trains, or even the bus stations.
Right.
And so I guess that's what the first thing we do is meet the train at Gatun Station.
At the Gatun Station, and as you can see on the image, that's the one that's curved. It comes off of a curve, and it's right at the bottom end of next to the locks.
Right.
And the other side of it, you're just a few feet away from the Gatun Lake. Then you start working your way along the lakeside there, and on your way down southbound. So, is it safe to say then on the southbound trip, the train starts in Cologne, and was Gatun then the last stop on the Atlantic side before you started working your way through the islands and the lake and stuff, getting towards Frijoles and Gamboa, or was there another stop after Gatun? And I got
Going which way? Going-
southbound.
Well, if you Cristobal is the last station, then is Mount Hope, and then is Gatun.
Okay, and then there's one here because I'm looking at this Cologne to Panama. You leave Cologne, Mount Hope first, Gatun next, and then Montelirio. Does that ring a bell? I never even heard of that.
No, as far as I know, there was no stops from Gat to Gamboa.
Right, Frijoles was one that you did on occasion.
Yeah,
which is right outside of Gamboa.
Anyway, one thing we did, what I found interesting, I'm sort of, by then I was familiar with the jungle. I've hunted in the jungle.
Right.
Right. Me and other policemen and days off or something. But I'd go down and I'd meet the train and 2 sandblasts would get off. And I'd say sandblast, that might, let's say
local natives.
Local natives got off.
Okay.
I was familiar with Choco Indians. I was familiar with sandblasts, and there was another one but further up. Anyway, you can recognize them, you know them, and so 2 sandblasts would get off. They'd be carrying chacaras. That's a woven.
Isn't it Embera?
Pardon?
It could be
Embera.
Chacara.
Yeah, no, the name of the native population. But anyway, we wasn't sure which ones they were, but they were obviously natives.
But 2 of these boys would get off the train, and you could tell because the chacara was a good-sized one that carried stuff. And
like a big purse.
It's a typical woven thing by string that they carry things in. And they'd walk up certain roads, and after I met them and saw them in different times, I'd keep an eye on where they were, and that. Not that I was curious myself. Where are they going?
Sure.
I don't live here. So
well, any non-Zonians, you always watch them anyway.
Certain road, or they'd find the jungle, and they'd be out of the town side, or they'd go out beyond the town side. And so they'd go into the jungle. And later on, if I'm working 8 to 4, I'd see them again when they come to catch the train back towards Balboa.
Right.
Where they came from, I don't know. Willie and I talked about it. It could have been Balboa. It could have been, what was the other one? San something or other?
I'm thinking. Well, I'm thinking that they would get, because if they're heading southbound, they would get off in Gamboa or Frijoles, and then maybe catch the Chagres and go inland to wherever their tribe was. But the idea was they would come and go into the woods in there in the Atlantic side and spend the day,
Well, what they do is they go in and they go through the wildlife, not wildlife animal wise, but the botany. They collect different things, different plants,
herbs and roots and plants. Yeah.
Whatever they needed, or whatever their witch doctor wanted them to bring back.
Right. and then
so
go back and catch the next train.
The chakras are obviously full, and they get on the train, they go back. So that was sort of interesting.
Yeah, that's another
and
another Zonian traveler.
That's part of that jungle training.
Right.
They're living the healthy life.
Yeah. No, absolutely. The other thing you mentioned is that one of your stops then would be the Gatun locks, and obviously, as you guys have seen on the maps there, Gatun was right next to the locks there. And so typically when you're stopping the locks, what was that like, and what would you do there?
I would just go in and ride to different places. You couldn't go far,
Right.
You could usually go down to where the locks work, the gates and that, and park there and watch the ships go through. But I knew the people that worked there, and they had a one gate went in, and they had a sergeant in the Canal Protection Division. He'd be in charge. They had people that walked in the area, so they took care of the inside of the lock. And so I'd talk to them, and then I'd probably go across the bridge and then go over, take a look at the spillway. That was sort of interesting, driving around there. And
so let me ask you, when you say you crossed that bridge, that was the bridge that was down below, right, by the locks near the water?
No, it was up above the train station.
Okay, but wasn't it? Because I thought from the pictures I've seen, and I could be wrong, but it looked like it was right next to the lock chamber.
Well, there's 3 chambers, you know.
Right, but in other words, it's not a bridge like the Thatcher Ferry Bridge. It wasn't a big bridge
Oh,
going
no,
up
no.
over.
No,
Right.
it was a small thing.
It was part of the lock system. In fact, it would swing open and close with the locks, right?
Correct. Yes.
Okay. Now, to go over that thing, was that something that opened and closed on a regular basis for people to cross, or you have to set it up ahead of time, or how did that work?
As far as I remember, it was always closed unless they were transiting a ship, you know. Then you'd have to wait.
Okay. Okay. So that was open to any traffic that had to go from East Bank to West Bank, pretty much.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
The road, in fact, the road ran into it. You didn't have to go into locks and then go through other small places to get to it. It was.
And now, did they allow traffic the same way? Because, like on the Pacific side, the Thatcher Ferry Bridge was open for Panamanian and American traffic, even though they went right through the zone. I would imagine that was the same on that side, right? For somebody from Cologne that wanted to go to the East Bank somewhere.
Oh, sure. Who knows what was beyond the.
Sure, it's Panama. It's their country, you know.
Yeah.
So otherwise, they got to go all the way down to the Swing Bridge or the Thatcher Ferry Bridge, which doesn't make sense.
Right.
So okay, that's interesting. That's
I'd go
cool.
across, and then sometimes I'd make a right turn and head out towards the fort, but I didn't go out there unless I needed to, or unless they wanted me to go out for some reason or other.
Right.
Because there's nothing out there except when you get to the fort.
Sure. Sure.
And then of course up by the locks, by the spillway, that was always a couple times I'd been there when they were getting rid of water, and it was quite interesting. I enjoyed this. And then, of course, later on, I wasn't living there now. Now I was in the detective office, and we went over, and that's when they brought in the Sturgis, which looked like a normal oil tanker, for instance.
Right.
Cargo ship. But it had no propeller, no engines. You had to tow it. So it was really a barge, but it was shaped like a boat. But it was a nuclear power plant, and they were tied into the spillway electrical system. And so that's what they were doing. I don't know the length of time, how long they were here, maybe a year or 2. But when it started, we went out, and I think 3 of us went, and looked it over to find out what they were doing, what they needed, what the protection was.
Right.
It was interesting.
Yeah. No, it really is. So somebody here's
bit of nuclear power there for a while.
Right. They Vern Couturier put me in touch with somebody that I think was stationed on the Sturgis. And so that'd be an interesting show to do, have him on and have you on as well, because you guys were trained on it. And the other person I'd like to maybe have join us would be Jim Bradley, because he did a lot with the electric division and with that alternate and auxiliary power and all that stuff. But that would be interesting. So somebody's asking in the chat here, Eric Anstis is asking, how far away was Galita Island from everything else? And Galita, was that on the West Bank or was that on the East Bank? I think for some reason I wanted to say that was on the West Bank.
That's a town in Santa Barbara.
How are you looking at the end of the locks? When you're going out of the Gatun locks into the lake?
Okay.
Would that be on the left side? Galita Island? I think that's because we were looking, the train goes out on a small island and then one more small island.
Right.
That's the end of the map. I don't know where I went from there.
So those little islands that it gets to, those are probably, I would say, about 4 miles from Gatun, 3 miles maybe, give or take. You know, if based on that 7-mile line that we saw there, I think that Galita Island would be in that area.
Well, Gatun had a yacht club, if you believe it, or a boat basin, or a thing for private boats and what have you, where you could in the water, or pull them out of the water, or probably anchor some of them. And then the canal had a diving section there, and that's where they were headquartered.
Oh, that's right. Yes,
the divers that were trained there and worked through there. That's where they worked out of.
Interesting. That in itself is probably a great show to do with the divers and the bush patrol, and those guys here. So Paul Austin's asking a question here: any cases of seafarers from communist countries jumping ship looking for asylum? Because I know we've talked about a Soviet ship, and you one time had to take a Navy guy to go and monitor it.
Well, this was again. I was out of uniform in Balboa, but this actually didn't happen in the Katoon locks, but in a Cuban ship was coming through, and I got in touch with the Navy. The Navy called us, and they wanted to monitor the ship coming through. So I got attached with this guy, and he comes out with a Samsonite suitcase, one of the, how they're in a real nice shape.
Right. Hard plastic.
Yeah, gray, He had his suitcase, and we got in the car, and we went to, I think it was Peter Miguel.
Miraflores, I think you said, by the swing bridge.
Miraflores, yeah. Anyway, we went to a certain spot, which I knew of, where you could park right alongside the chamber.
Right.
And down even. And it was perfect for him. And he got his suitcase and put it in a certain position and pushed some switches, and then we just waited and let the ship come through. It was scanning the ship for any radioactivity.
How about that?
Or
in case they're carrying nukes.
Whatever.
That's funny. That's funny.
So it got through. He packed this thing back. He didn't even open it. He just worked it off on the outside.
Sure.
Put it back in the car, and off. I dropped him off, and that was the end of that. But I've had quite a few instances on ship. Some in uniform, some in detective shootings on things,
right.
And one time I had to go out in the anchorage on the launch and get on the ladder of the ship.
Right, like the pilots do.
Exactly, and the waves would be coming, and you time the wave, and you time it up, but go with the ship, and then it go down, and then you go up, and then you get timed right, and when they get up to the top, you can step off onto the ladder.
Sure.
Interesting.
Dangerous.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. So were there any, like he asked, were there any time that some seafarers were requesting asylum in the Canal Zone?
Not that I know, not on my shift, or not that I know of.
Be interesting. I mean, there's really not a whole opportunity other than when you're in the locks to jump off and land on the, in that lock chamber, which, because I mean, it's
you're not going to survive that. Probably jump off Gatun Lake or something.
But several ships that they ended their transit in the Canal Zone, and they just didn't want to go no further. That one ship was going down to look for gold in Peru or something. I don't know what they were after, but they had several people signed up for something, but they ran out of steam in the Canal Zone, and that's where they got off.
That's interesting. Time to leave.
And then you go out to you remember between Balboa and Diablo, they had that large plant there, or rather caged area, fenced area.
Mm-hmm.
That you could buy certain things in there, and then it was like they got rid of it. Any unclaimed cargo and things like that, they auctioned off.
Section I, right? Section I was that?
Section I, yeah.
Yeah.
And that was interesting. They got all sorts of things in there. In fact, they had a trailer, and I was interested in trailers. That's before I had my 18-foot Scotty.
Right.
And I was looking for a trailer, and this was a European trailer. Nice, about the same size, 16, 18 foot. And altogether different make. They make them different there.
Sure.
They make them to use every bit of space. They're not interested in how they look.
Right.
And
something they took off of a ship that didn't make it through or something? Or
I don't know what the deal was, but they...
somebody else got it.
I didn't make it. I bid on it. I bid on it.
You had to bid for the stuff. You didn't just go there and there was a price and you bought it.
Oh, no. You bid on it. They had that often. Cargo that was unclaimed or things like that.
No, that's amazing. I never thought about that way, but that's true. I mean, everybody drove past that section 9 and didn't realize what it was. You know,
Oh, yeah.
I was a big unclaimed cargo fan. I bet. Listen, I bet you could get some great finds that way.
That's where you could buy alcohol.
Oh, the moonshine. That's the moonshine spot. I remember people talking about that. Yes.
Look at that.
Then we go to buy the moonshine. That's right. I remember that.
That's hilarious. Yeah, well, the things you know, right? Things you choose to learn and not learn and stuff.
Wait, was that moonshine made in the Canal Zone, or like you said, confiscated, or
no,
was just abandoned?
It wasn't moonshine. It was alcohol made correctly. It wasn't poisonous or anything like that. It was medicinal grade alcohol, but they sold it there, and it can be used for different things. Use it for shellacs and varnishes, stuff like that.
But you can drink it.
You can drink it.
So I guess
like really Seco Herrerano must be just like that. That's probably where they got Seco from.
That's
it's the same thing you get in medicinal alcohol. I had a down in Ecuador.
Yeah.
Where there was a virus came through. Hemorrhagic fever, they called it.
Yes.
And that's
what that whole Ebola movie was about, was hemorrhagic fever.
Yeah, and I was still in the military, still in Albrook. And I went over and flew out with the commandos in the Air Force, C-46s, and flew down. And I was wondering why, because the first trip I'm flying down in this cage is a cat in the plane. We're delivering cats to Ecuador. Well, we landed on a grass strip in Ecuador, and the MARU, Middle American Research Unit, had set up their activities there to counteract this virus. It was bad virus.
So were the cats there to catch the animals spreading it?
Well, they didn't know what was happening other than the people were dying. I mean, like 60 and 80% deaths in small towns. Wow. And we checked into a hotel there, and I was in there, and I didn't drink anything that you didn't have to have a bottle opener to take a cap off,
Right. sealed and made somewhere else.
Yeah. And that's when they finally found out it was the field mice coming up in the Amazon and getting into the granaries and urinating in the grain, and then the people that take out the grain and make bread, and next thing you know, they're dying.
Wow.
And I'd sit out there and you could watch the funeral procession come down almost every day.
Wow.
Anyway, they did find out what it was and how to handle it. And we had a party there, the military, and the military was MARU, some medical Army doctors, some Navy doctors,
another acronym,
some civilian doctors. In fact, MARU had a unit in Panama, the Republic of Panama. Their headquarters was there, MARU.
Sure.
And they were in charge of it. We lost one doctor. My last trip down was a monument they put up for him. He got it while he was there, and he passed.
Yeah, that's the risk of doing that stuff.
And of course, medicinal alcohol you could drink. That was it.
Heck yeah, why not? Might as well.
How would you mix that with like soda or straight
orange juice?
Orange juice, gotcha. Screwdrivers
or whatever.
Well, orange juice is very acidic, so it probably would kill a lot of that taste.
And we actually ate fish.
That's a good combo.
The one that can kill you.
Oh, that lionfish.
Piranha.
Oh, piranha. Piranha can kill you? Well, it can eat you, I guess.
Yeah, hell yeah, I can eat you. That's interesting. So, Mr. Paul's asking, did you hunt for Nikki and Conejo? That we'll leave that for another show, Paul, because my dad was an avid hunter, and there were several Canal Zone police officers, other people, and I think that episode of hunting will be good because I have stories of going with you to Penonome and going to Boquete hunting, and I never went to Darien with you to go hunting, but there's some cool stories there that I think we'll save for another show because otherwise,
yeah,
we're going
I
down
got
a big rabbit hole there.
Right, David Kelleher and a bunch of La Boca kids. They used to go hunting, and the Canal Zone police would go chasing them because they would go hunting, all in the inside the Canal Zone, but like behind Gorgas Hospital. Behind that hill on the limits right there we were talking about.
Go out the Red Tank. You just follow that road until you get into
they would. So he has stories about you have stories on the police side. He has stories on the kid side that would go.
Hunting is hunting, man, one way or the other. But
hunting
that would
in the
be
Canal
great.
Zone.
I'm glad you
that
brought
would
up
be a great show. I think yes, David Kelleher's ready to talk about that. I already talked.
I got some good photos for that, Will. Right?
Yeah, you do. You absolutely do. There's a couple great pictures of you and Roberto Fabrega, and whatnot.
Yeah.
And I have some great memories of being in Penonome and Boquete hunting and all that stuff. So, but yeah, we'll definitely leave that for another show.
When we get a deer, they weren't deer like you get in the state, like whitetail deer, stuff like that.
Right.
They were smaller deer. But we get a deer, and then who's going to handle this? So we bring it in, and Pio Delgado. Remember the Delgados lived on?
Yep.
Pio Delgado was a policeman, and he
yes, good friend of my dad. He was one of the police that came with my dad when
the original
allowed the
Panamanian
Panamanians in. Yeah.
His
Tinker,
dad,
Delgado, Villalobos, and Royo. Those are my dad's buddies that he brought over when they opened up that position.
I think Pio's dad was a cook on a ship, and I think that's how he got interested in. But he cooked. But we come back with a deer, and we say, "Hey, Pio, he'd take
care of it." Oh, very good.
You're right, because they always had parties at their house, barbecues. As a kid, I remember going there a lot.
Yeah, I worked with his daughter Lynette. Her and I worked at Tocumen for Copa, for the Delgado family. So, but anyway, so that was our first day in the life of a Canal Zone police officer. So
yeah, we didn't get far. We got to the train, and then over.
And that's so typical of this show. We digress. We go down rabbit holes, but part of it is the fun of telling those stories in the locks and things that happen there and here. And again, we have great engagement from the audience, so it's always nice to answer questions and go in different directions. That's that makes it makes it fun. So, but we got to definitely do this again. We'll get our next one, a Balboa patrol maybe, or another Atlantic patrol, and find out some other cool things that went on there. It's it's always interesting when we talk about doing Canal Zone police stories. My dad and I have talked about it several times, and there's a fine line between telling fun stories, some great anecdotal stories and things of that nature. But again, you want to be mindful of people's privacy. Even if it happened 50 years ago, it's still, you don't want to know that Mrs. Jones really was doing that kind of stuff or whatever else. So, some of those stories that I've heard, just being the son of a cop, those aren't for those are for the Owl Show, right? Those are for members only. But there's still a lot of great things that the Canal Zone Police did. It was a really big part of the Canal Zone community and the Canal Zone experience. And like you were doing with this story, it's we can develop the next one a little bit more. But you guys were on the ground. You were out there. You saw everything in the zone, be it from homes and businesses and offices and people. And so it's really a different insight that a lot of us don't have, especially as kids, because 8 to 4 we were in school and you were out there patrolling those places, and you got all those maps that you're showing us here on your screen there. My dad keeps HP Printing and their ink company in business because he loves the print. So
that is the whole map selection out of the 69.
There you go.
We got them all on paper.
Yeah. So I downloaded the PDF version of the file of the phone book for 69 in the Canal Zone, and of course it has all the maps. So he printed them out, but they're great maps. They're very high quality. You can zoom in and see every house number, every street name.
I'm going to work on them. What I got, and they're going to go from the beige color to black and white or gray.
Good.
And I'm going to.
You should probably frame them and sell them at the reunion, or get them away, or at least get to cover the cost of the frame. But yes,
I've got to put them together so the left and right pages match.
Yes.
And then I'm
correct.
going to very lightly add glue to water.
Yes, yes, and as you can see,
So
like
it-
this one that I have on the screen right now is the one on the left side. I superimposed that Canal Zone telephone book, just street names and all that stuff onto a Google Earth map. It kind of looks cool there. I want to work on more of those and see if we can't turn that into a little bit more of an engaging type of map. But like I said, guys, go check out the Canal Zone museum collection in Gainesville or online because they have a lot of these phone books up there. It's like I said even earlier, it's kind of cool to see what your phone number was. I think who was it earlier? I think Chris put in there he knew his number. Let me see if he got his. What was your? Do you remember what your phone number was, Ricky?
526269, I believe, or 526259. That's what I see in my mind.
Yeah, I know we had one was 4938, Dad. Wasn't that our phone number? 524938?
Could be.
I believe that was our phone number. I know that our mailbox was 2996.
Yeah, mine was 434. That I remember too, forever.
Yeah, here it is. But even that is kind of silly. But you go through that phone book and all of a sudden, hey, let me look up. Oh, there's Tony DeLuca's phone number. Oh yeah, that's right. I remember that phone number. Because back in the day, remember you actually dialed numbers. You didn't hit contact names. And dial for you.
The rotary can dial. That was like super modern.
Oh yeah, and if you screwed up and you got the wrong number, damn, you got to hang up and start all over again. Start that long series of dials and everything. So
especially if like 9976. That's a lot.
Right, absolutely. So, but Akira is saying thanks for another enjoyable show. The memories today were much less scary than he posted earlier that that the fairs in Panama, and I'm the same way, Akira. I absolutely any of those traveling fairs. I don't trust those for nothing, man. You see the people working those things? No thanks. I'll pass. I'll eat the food, but I won't ride the rides. That's for sure.
Right.
The Sopranos had a good thing on them. You guys remember watching the Sopranos? Hey, David.
Absolutely. But anyway, listen, Dad, again, thank you so much for taking the time to join us. I'm looking forward to doing more of these and getting more of those Canal Zone police stories because it was nice to even mix in some Canal Zone police stories in with the tour there.
I've worked both sides.
Yes.
I've worked all the beats. I've walked them and I've driven them. And then the detective, it's just.
Yeah, well, then even for the courts, you were an investigator, for the courts as well. So you definitely have a lot of law enforcement experience and background. And so we definitely want to keep doing this. That should be a great time there. But again, Dad, thank you so much for joining us tonight. And we're looking forward to the next go around on it.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. And we have a lot of hellos here for you. Let me see.
Yeah.
Thank you. That would be great. All right. Well, we got Captain Andrew, who is on the Nimitz.
Oh, there you go.
Like we reported earlier.
Right on. Yeah, Andrew did a transit one time. In fact, it was during the Canal reunion, wasn't it? And he got him to blow the horn while we were on the air. So that was kind of cool. Little silly things that make us happy here on the show is something like that. But anyhow, okay, Dad. Well, thanks again. Have a great weekend. I'll probably talk to you tomorrow, and then we'll start prepping maybe for another month or two. We'll do another one of these shows.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank
Dad,
you,
take
sir.
care.
Thank you
Have a
so
good night.
much. And then we got David chimed in, Willie.
Yep. Let me see here. So Dave is talking about next week the Causeway Islands Pirates to Presidents.
Yes.
Wow. And in case you want to call and talk to Dave in the Canal Zone, his number is 525776. Right on. That's cool.
Crank calls.
His would have a 776 on it as a historian. That would be.
Oh,
so
yeah.
appropriate for
76.
him.
Of course. Yes.
I have an old phone book. Yeah, they're really cool. Listen, those phone books are fun, man. It was just silly to sit there. But I remember
the
as a
names.
kid watching
You see all the names. Is what it is. It was
Absolutely.
great. Yeah.
It was a lot
I
of
always
fun,
go through them whenever I get a chance.
But anyhow, guys, it's another fun show, another hopefully educational show. There was a lot of cool things that we picked up and learned about, and certainly you guys chiming in as well. Told us where Goleta Island is and everything like that. So appreciate that as well. But yeah, don't forget, guys. Next week is our first of the month. Our Canal Zone historian Dave Dahlstrom, as he just mentioned, we're talking about the Causeway Islands. Right? They were truly islands before the Causeway. They were not connected to Panama. Right, we had to build that road, that causeway, to put them out there, and that should be cool. And I'm curious to see what that Pirates of President is going to be all about. So definitely looking forward to that.
Yep.
Yeah.
And guys, there's my little Shiva. Thank you for all you viewers out there. It is the end of the month. We had over 600 viewers for the whole month. Thank you so much. We really appreciate it. We'll see you next week with another great show. Hasta la vista.
Salud, everybody. Cheers. All right.